from the FMT Insurance Studios. Hey, I wanted to do a couple of housekeeping things, but before we do that, let's just dive straight into it. Right? It's 7:10. We started about a minute late this morning. Kircher, is that the last name? Yeah. Let's go right into this. It is Conspiracy Theory Thursday, right? We're gonna get into that eventually. Caller Matt's coming in and talk about. Man, CIA pushing punk music, about Paul from the Beatles being dead or maybe not dead, about the Grateful Dead and the CIA operation, a whole bunch of stuff. Everyone has heard right now, I'm sure, about the Boeing 737 MAX. I think it's a MAX 8 and a MAX 9. I may not be right about that, but I'm fairly certain the MAX 8 and the MAX 9s have all been grounded in almost every single country in the world right now. America was one of the last holdouts, and this comes after two, let's say, what do they call them now in aviation? Accidents, crashes? I don't know what they call them. I don't know what the industry term for it. There's always some.
It's an accident, you know?
Yeah, but there's always some industry term that they claim, you know what I'm saying. But I think the Ethiopian one was 157 dead, 148 crew members. 148 passengers. Mm-hmm. And Ethiopian Airlines was apparently one of the more reputable airlines in the entirety of Africa. With that being said, let's go to Robert Kircher on the line right now. Now, forgive me a little bit here, sir. This was somewhat thrust upon me about literally 2 minutes before we came on air. Do you fly these aircraft? Do you have intimate knowledge of these aircraft? Where are you coming from on this?
I'm actually coming from a different perspective. I do not fly those aircraft. I fly Airbus aircraft, which is, of course, the European competition to Boeing. Okay. All right. Well, still comparable of what it would take to fly a 737 as far as the Airbus is. Again, this is coming from an outsider's perspective, but one would assume. Now, what's your take on the Air Max and the grounding of the Air Maxes? Well, my take is I think it was probably a pretty smart move by the European authorities to ground the aircraft. As far as commenting on whether the FAA should have or not, I probably shouldn't comment on that, but. I think it was a smart move by EASA to ground them until they have a little bit more understanding about what's going on with that aircraft.
Now, do you have any understanding as to? And I know the recovery of the black boxes is obviously going to be have quite a bit to do with what they actually recover as far as what happened. Is it mechanical error? Is it human error? I'm not sure what's going on here, but it seems like there's something that's far more problematic with this particular aircraft as opposed to the one right before. Do you have any inclination as to what might have happened in the air there? And I asked that question, sir, because it seems like the two crashes we've had were virtually identical with the timing of takeoff, shortly after takeoff, anywhere from, 15 minutes to half an hour that requested to return to the runway they just left from, and then just seemingly went off radar after that. Do you have any speculation as to what might have happened there?
Well, it is of course just speculation, but it being a newer model aircraft, sometimes systemic issues will show up after a certain period of time or under certain conditions. I personally believe, and it's only speculation, that there are fly-by-wire systems that are interacting with sensors on the aircraft. So we have angle of attack sensors, which are there to basically measure the angle of attack on the aircraft, and those sensors will send information to their particular fly-by-wire system to prevent a stall if the pilots were to have too high a nose-up attitude to prevent that stall. And then, of course, it would push the aircraft over or trim it forward. In the case of the Boeing, I believe it trims it forward. So that horizontal stabilizer, which is in the back of the airplane, if that system is not working correctly as it should, and it's a redundant system, so it should work, of course, but if that system is recording inaccurately or producing erroneous information, and it then starts to trim the nose forward or push the nose forward, then in some cases, if a pilot is not trained to deal with that, then we can end up seeing the results like we have.
Now, you'll have to forgive me for this terribly asinine follow-up question, but when you say fly-by-wire systems, one might presume, obviously, this is something that is out of the hands of a human control. This is sort of an autonomous-based system that, regardless of what a pilot does or pulls on or touches, the system itself is going to try and correct for something, and then it's up to the pilot to try and, after the fact, try and recorrect or something. Is that right?
Yeah, there is a I guess you could say a level of autonomous behavior in those systems. The Airbus has them as well. Um, so with the Airbus, if those angle of attack sensors start to measure a high attitude that is inappropriate, then to prevent the stall, the fly-by-wire system will first start to limit what the pilot can do, and then actually start flying the aircraft downward to avoid that stall.
Now, President Trump sent out a tweet over the past week, and I'm paraphrasing slightly here, but nevertheless, we'll get the gist of it. Something to the effect of, aircraft have become far too sophisticated now. It's sometimes older is better. We don't need, he said something to the effect of, I don't need an MIT graduate or a rocket scientist flying my plane. I need a good, stable pilot. What do you make of that?
First of all, I love that comment.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. He is. I believe he is correct in a certain fashion, because when aircraft manufacturers design extremely, quote unquote, extremely intelligent airplanes to avoid the dumb mistakes of pilots, sometimes they have the opposite effect, in the sense that you turn what you would consider a non-thinking pilot's airplane into a thinking pilot's airplane.
Oh, wow.
When the poop hits the fan, right?
Yeah.
So if something that's designed to simplify a pilot's work suddenly does not function correctly, then you create the opposite situation, where an extremely large amount of intelligence or good training is required to counteract the systems that are now malfunctioning.
Well, you sound like obviously a fairly competent, if not extremely competent pilot. If someone were to come to you, you're a boss, and I'm this is a wild hypothetical here. I don't know how it works in the industry, but if somebody were to come to you and say, "Hey, you're flying for Delta or whoever today, you're going to fly one of these new 737 MAX planes," would you have any sort of hesitation or trepidation about flying that?
Well, I'm not the first one to experience. So let's put it in perspective for a moment. If I'm a pilot, I know that these two crashes have occurred, and the Boeing 737, although almost every aircraft has had some form of tainted past dealing with issues, if I believe it's a safe aircraft and there's an appropriate level of safety, yes, I'm going to fly it. In this particular situation, if I was suddenly told, "Hey, you're gonna start flying this 737 MAX," I'd be like, "Well, okay, but let's make sure we have the proper training to deal with these issues we think is happening," and then I would have no problem doing it.
And we have to hit a break coming up here, sir, and I can't thank you enough for giving us some of your time here this morning. I want to ask you one final question on the way out, though.
Sure.
I heard statistics that this 737 MAX, again, I think 8 and 9, only 20 to maybe 25% of the orders have actually been delivered upon so far, meaning that there's anywhere from 75 to 80% of this quota that's still left to be built. With the way that it seems like Boeing's stock is tanking right now, and with the problems that we're having with every single major first world country that are grounding these planes, what do you think the future for these MAX 8 and MAX 9 planes look like?
I actually think it's probably going to be just fine, believe it or not. I mean, Boeing is suffering right now, of course, and their stock is suffering as well. I believe that they'll figure it out. I believe that, just like other aircraft manufacturers and Boeing previously, of course, when these things happen, they have to find the appropriate level of reliability, which is an astronomical number, to avoid any kind of serious crash or accident like this. So I believe Boeing will fix the problem. They're good people, and they're going to get it all handled. They're going to find out what's going on, and because we could all be wrong here. All of this speculation might be just completely incorrect. What I think and what a lot of other people think might be wrong. It might just be pilot error, although this looks like far beyond coincidence right now, correct?
No, I would think so as well, especially with the number of crashes that happen so frequently next to each other. Hey, and being that it is Conspiracy Theory Thursday, let me put you on the spot. Crazy here in a second. My buddy sent me this headline for Conspiracy Theory Thursday here from tomsguide.com. Apparently, a tech insider says that there's a GPS flaw that's inevitably going to come down the pipe on April 6th, saying security expert says that he won't fly on April 6th due to this GPS concern. You heard anything about that in the industry yet?
I have not.
I figured not. That's no problem.
Oh, man. That's a good one.
Yeah, really. Robert Kurtz, thank you again so much for joining us this morning, sir. And anytime we have some aviation questions, we might reach out to you again.
Absolutely. You're more than welcome to, and you guys do a great job.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. Hey, there goes Robert, 7:20 in the morning, a little bit late in this first break. Hit this break. Be right back.
Come and fly away with me. Come and fly away.
Democrats in
Yeah, Facebook. What's good? That was kind of a cool little intro, yeah. Roz, like literally, we had 15 seconds before I came on air, and she's like, "Hey, this pilot's on here. Want to talk about the jet stuff?" So I was like, "All right, I'm Mr. Henry. I'm always ready." In China, Michael, what you been doing in China? You avoid those re-education camps, man? Michael be
Mr. Sloan, why was
Michael be jet setting around China. Ray, you know that dude? I assume having the same last name, you probably do. Oh, that might not be a right assumption, because there's lots of people with Henry's last name that I have no idea who they are. I bet it was, man. Hey, groundbreaking news today, you guys. Apparently rich people cheat to get their kids in college. Dun, dun, dun. Deuce, nueve.
gentlewoman from New York visit? Mr. Sloan.
No.
7:25 in the morning. Welcome back to Real News. A little bit of that was me. You'll never know which part. It's this part. That part. Anyways.
You did so good.
Thanks. I thought I did pretty sweet. Hey, we're all over the place this morning, but hey, it's Real News. We're jumping straight into it. I like when we jump straight into it and don't do any housekeeping stuff. It's, housekeeping
Maybe we
stuff.
should do that.
All right,
too.
fine. Crown Plaza call number 865-888-TALK. That's the Crown Plaza call number 865-888-8255 if you have an opinion on anything we're talking about. Don't forget about that AM 760. If you're listening on 92.3 AFM, you drive out of our range to switch over to the AM 760. Or, if you're like me, I just ordered a new one, by the way, Roz. My old one, the Bluetooth transmitter, FM transmitter in the car. I've had that one
Wore it out.
I've had it for literally 9 years now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I got some good use out of it.
I didn't even know about these till last year.
Yeah, I know. They're really awesome, and they work in pretty much any car that has a 12-volt connection in their cigarette lighter, which is incredible. All you got to do is the one I just ordered was $16, the new one, and it has a 4.5-star rating for 20,000 reviews on Amazon. It's really good stuff.
I don't even listen to radio. If I do, it's Talk Radio 92.3, of course.
That's
but
right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm usually on my Bluetooth.
So don't forget about all that. Facebook, I love interacting with the comments there. Just type in Real News Radio to your Facebook search bar, and our Patreon, patreon.com, patreon.com/Real News Radio. Hey, speaking of the Facebook here, our buddy Michael in Facebook just got back from China for a couple weeks working over there. And where's that comment go? He said something very, very interesting to me. Back listening after a few weeks, right. Yeah, I want to thank Robert Kircher again real quick for calling in, and he flies the Airbuses and gave us a little bit of insight and commentary into the 737 MAX situations, problems going on. I don't know, it's obviously should be disconcerting to everyone else as well too that we as humanity and society have now become forced to seemingly become so reliant upon AI that when and if it gets it wrong, a human being could seemingly fix it, but doesn't have the opportunity to do so before it kind of takes us to our own peril. You know what I'm saying? Here's a comment by Facebook. Well, it was on Facebook, but Michael made this. Anybody else find this weird? Someone asked us, and maybe these two things are related, but someone asked Michael, said, hey, Michael, I heard the smog is terrible over in China. One would expect, right? And Michael said, yeah, it's horrible, horrible smog. But Bob, that's funny. Bob says likely from farting cows, eh? Yeah, I'm sure that's what it is. But Michael said, here's a weird issue. In China, there were no birds. Is that because of the smog? Is that connected? That's interesting to me. In China, there were no birds. Now, when I was in Iceland, there was almost no animal life at all, but that was also because of a recent volcano that had just erupted and destroyed something to the effect of 75-80% of the wildlife on that island. So it made sense to everyone else. I mean, when you saw a seal out there or something, it was insane. When you saw a single bird flying in the air, it was insane. But there was a very clear reason for that. No birds in China, though. I suppose that's just from the smog, or is it because Chinese government says, communism, we do not accept your dreams of flight, sir. We will not. We will not accept that you think you can fly. R. Kelly was wrong. I believe I can fly. No, you're not. You can't fly in China. That's right, yeah? Bring R. Kelly over to China and see what happens to him. Hey, Ross, can I get this computer going here? Breaking news of the day, everybody. Oh, man. This is going to blow your mind. I got so many stories today that you never, ever would have thought would happen, especially in 2019. Here's one story. Oh, man, you guys just wait for it. Just wait for it. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. We should make a jingle out of that, Ross. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Lisa Page, that's her. that's her theme song now. Here's the headline for Lisa Page. Lisa Page admitted that the Obama DOJ ordered a stand down on Clinton email prosecution. What? Say it ain't so. Yeah, we all knew that happened. Trump sent out a tweet saying, this just revealed that the FBI agent Lisa Page transcript make the Obama Justice Department, where to go, look exactly like it was, a broken, corrupt machine. Hopefully justice will finally be served. Much more to come. Well, a little bit of that is on you, Trump. I mean, a little bit. And your DOJ, I mean, you could probably do something about that if you wanted to. Here's another headline that should just blow your mind. Peter Strzok had impeachment in mind when he worked for Mueller. Oh, really? What? I got a great exchange between, what's this guy's name? Sanders? Johnson? I'll figure out his name here in a second. It doesn't matter. But it's between him and Jake Tapper, and this guy's basically saying, hey, we need to impeach Trump at any given cost. And Tapper saying, I'm sorry, it's not exactly how impeachment works. Although here's the here's the most astounding headline of yesterday that I just didn't have time to get to yesterday. I just really want another real news opinion on this. I'll just read the headline real quick because we got to hit this news break coming up, and we'll come back with this. College admissions scam. How the privileged game the system. Here's the CNN headline. Cheat, bribe, lie. Here's how the college admissions scam allegedly worked. Is it surprising to anybody at all that rich people pay colleges off to get their people, to get their children in school? I mean, honestly. Come on. Come on. I was listening to this guy on either Joe Rogan's podcast, or I want to say it was an interview done with Jordan Peterson. It was in the vein of something to of that realm, the sort of intellectual dark web type thing. And this individual worked in academia, and he sort of put the binary choice out there, saying if you had an either or choice, and I know it's a wild hypothetical, but if you had an either or choice, which one would you choose? Here's the two choices. You go into an interview, and you have on your resume that you graduated from Harvard. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you graduated at the top of your class. I mean, what's the old adage? What do you call a person that graduates at the bottom, at the last person in their medical class from Harvard? What do you call that person? You call them a doctor. You call them a doctor. It doesn't matter if there's 400 people in your medical class and you graduated 399 or number 400, you're still a doctor. And it's from Harvard. So here's the binary choice that he posed. Would you rather have on your resume that you graduated from Harvard, or going into that job, would you rather have every single bit of skill set that you would need to adequately perform at that job, if not overperform at that job? Which one would you rather have at the face point of the interview? I'm pretty sure it's self-explanatory, and I'm pretty sure we would all say option one. I want that Harvard degree. They'll teach me how to do it on the job. Look, the LSAT doesn't teach you how to pass law school. Law school doesn't teach you how to become an attorney. So what am I doing? What am I doing? Obviously, it's a signaling issue. It's a signaling issue. You're signaling to the other elite that you're a part of that elite as well, which is why these Hollywood elites, dude, some of these Hollywood elites are worth 20, 30, 50, $500 million. Just give your kids half of that net worth. You don't have to worry about them ever again. What are you doing sneaking your kids into Harvard when they're making when they're making 1,100 in the SAT and you want to bump them up to 1,400? What are you doing? Just give them half. One of these people's daughter was already an Instagram model making $50,000 per Instagram post. She's making $2 million a year already. Why you need to sneak her into Harvard? Because you need to signal to the other elites that you're part of that elite cause. You get what I'm saying? That you've been through this sort of progressive indoctrination program at the highest echelon, at the upper echelon. That's what it's about. 7:33, hit this break.
I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. Spread my wings, fly away.
That's what R. Kelly was singing in his head during that interview recently. Spread my wings and fly away. Y'all see that R. Kelly interview, by the way?
I can fly. I can fly.
Hey, F book. We got some recode updates. Hang on a second. I'm sure y'all saw. Don't knock my swoop, bro. I don't like putting stuff in it every day. All right, I'm gonna go get some coffee, Facebook. I'll be back in a second. Let me leave y'all with something interesting, at least.
Brad Sherman of California, he introduced articles of impeachment against President Trump back in 2017. Congressman, thanks for joining us. Speaker Pelosi is arguing, quote, impeachment is so divisive to the country that unless there's something so compelling and overwhelming and bipartisan, I don't think we should go down that path, unquote. You disagree. Why?
Well, first, he met the legal standard. He's committed several felonies, including violation of 1512b3 of the criminal code, obstruction of justice on at least 2 occasions, probably 3, and that's just in his first 6 months.
All right, well, that's your opinion, but no legal source, no legal entity he is guilty of obstruction of justice.
No legal entity has said to the contrary, and in fact, there are numerous scholarly articles that take a look at what he did on the record, compare it to the code, and say this is a violation of the code. But the question isn't just whether he violated the legal standard. The question is, do we have the political support? Now, I was part of starting the ball rolling in terms of talking about impeachment. And if we hadn't talked about impeachment, imagine what this president would have done if he thought he was immune. He certainly would have fired Mueller. He certainly would have done God knows what.
Right,
has crossed his mind. So we need to go down the road part of the way and talk about impeachment. But we're not going to remove him from office until we get more public support. And that probably isn't going to happen until we develop more facts. That's one of the reasons we need to investigate.
Well, you called for impeaching him in 2017, so you're way ahead of the idea that you need to have more facts, right?
You don't have to wait till you know every felony the president has committed.
Sir, with all due respect, you keep saying that he's committed felonies. There's not one legal entity that has said he committed felonies, and saying
there's not one legal entity that said that his firing of Comey was not a violation of 1512b3.
That's not how the law works. Well, I mean, it doesn't work like, well, I say there needs to be a legal finding, and you say, well, there isn't a legal finding that he didn't do the crime.
There's no body other than the House of Representatives that can make that. You can't say, well, the courts determined that he didn't. You can't say that the courts determined he did. The courts will not have jurisdiction. Only the House of Representatives has jurisdiction, and the last Congress wouldn't give it serious consideration and wouldn't even develop the facts. Now we're doing the investigation. That may develop enough facts not only to show that he's violated the law, but to generate the public support for going forward with removal. And until we have much more public support, we're not going to be able to remove him from office.
Well, that's certainly true, because there is public support for investigating the president, but there is not public support at all, even close, to impeaching him or removing him from office.
We're at 50% in some of the polls for removing him from office, but it's going to take 2/3 of the United States Senate, which means it would take at least 2/3 of the American people to get Republican senators on board in large numbers.
Well, let's talk about that, because do you support the idea of going forward with impeachment even while Republicans control the Senate?
We went forward with impeachment when we needed Republican votes to impeach Richard Nixon. It's when you can generate the public support, you can go forward and remove a president who's guilty of high crimes and misdemeanors.
Needing Republican votes is not the same thing as a Republican Senate. I mean, there was, as you know, that was during the Nixon impeachment, that was a Democratic Senate. Yes, you needed Republican votes. This is a Republican Senate. Wouldn't it be a loser? Because this is what Nancy Pelosi seems to be saying, and a lot of your colleagues, that even if you impeach the president in the House, it's not going anywhere in the Senate, and so it would cause a whole bunch of further divisive action. This is according to Speaker Pelosi, and you wouldn't even get the result you want.
Well, first of all, I think Richard Nixon would have been impeached even if there were 5, 10, 15 more Republican senators. Second, I do not think that Trump would be removed from office by this United States Senate until we get public opinion on our side, and that is probably going to require more facts. whether they come from Mueller, whether they come from House investigations. We need to give the American people more information. And if we do, and we generate the level of support for impeachment.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. About to come back on Earth. I ain't got no producer in a producer seat. Wish I could flip that camera around so y'all can see what I'm looking at. You know how they do that in cartoons? When they're nervous, they have these sweat bubbles popping up? That's what I'm doing right now. Look at that, I told you last minute. .41 in the morning. Welcome back to Real News, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mr. Henry. Hey, I just left you here with the most groundbreaking story of the last couple of months. Never saw it coming. Rich people pay to get their kids in college. Dystopic future.
Are they like so stupid? Are they getting like...
I don't know.
Their IQ number's really dumb? Or?
Where the dumb elite get to go to Harvard. You got to settle for some state college.
I love it.
Get your degree at Pellissippi.
And then, like, this sweet little, what was her name on Full House? That lady,
oh,
Lori,
yeah, it's her daughter.
She was, like, so sweet,
yeah,
you know?
that's the daughter I'm talking about.
Right.
It's her daughter who's a model who's making, like, $2 million a year or something.
She's gorgeous, but...
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's what I said.
What happens if they were to delete Instagram?
I don't know.
She wouldn't be a model anymore.
I don't know. A dystopic future where you can't get into Harvard and you're not an Instagram model. What will you do? You have fantastic looks, but no future. That'll never happen, right? Anyways, before I get off on that tangent, I'm going to go to Ray here talking about AI aviation before we move too far past the 737 MAX conversation. One more thing I want you to keep in the back of your mind when we're talking about when we move into this college conversation here. Ask yourself, too, I'm gonna pull this clip up from Good Will Hunting. Remember that clip in the bar scene where he says, like, look, two things are going to happen to you in the future. You're going to start to think back in your life. One, don't do that. Second, after you graduate, you're going to realize you paid $150,000 for an education that you could have gotten for $1.50 in late fees from the library. That's where we are. That's where college education is right now. Think about what this says about, I mean, and this is not new, but think about what this solidifies and what the documents now that what this validates as to what our college education system actually is. It's not a training program. It's a punch card for a country club. Are you following me? Our kids are not being educated, and even if they're not being educated, even if they're not being indoctrinated, you don't have to go there with me. At a minimum, though, when you're seeing something like this go on, when you're seeing a scam to this, dude, they were photoshopping their faces on people pole vaulting on different bodies. They were photoshopping their faces on kids rowing to make it be convinced that they were student athletes. I'll get into the whole minutia of what this conversation is, but think about what this says about our upper tiers. Some of the best colleges in the entire world. Our Ivy League institutions are widely considered some of the best institutions in the entire world. That's why everybody else is coming here to be educated. And now all of a sudden it looks like it's nothing more than just your run-of-the-mill country club ticket. It cost me $50,000 to get in this country club? Well, the really exclusive country clubs cost you about $2.5 million to get into. Okay, cool, I'll pay that. I mean, it's on your resume for the rest of your life, right? So it's worth the investment. It's not worth the investment because you're getting educated. No, don't get me wrong. Nobody's failing out of college anymore. You don't fail out of Harvard anymore. It used to be, it was pretty easy to get into Harvard, really, really hard to stay in Harvard. Now it's really hard to get into Harvard. It's really easy to stay in Harvard. You know what I'm saying? Let's go to Ray, though, before we move past that too much, talking about AI aviation. We had Robert Kircher on this morning, buddy. I just want to catch the Real News audience up. The reason why we're talking about this, we had Robert Kircher on this morning during that very first segment, about 10 minutes giving us some insight. He flies the Airbuses, which he said was a different company than Boeing. I should know off the top of my head who makes Airbus. I'll look that up in a second, but maybe you know, Ray. Anyways, giving us some insight as to the 737 MAXs, 2 of which have went down over the past couple of weeks, I want to say, and really indicating that in his mind it was a problem with these sort of, what did he say, fly-by-wire systems that you can't exactly account for later on. But AI Aviation subheading here. What's on your mind, buddy?
Good morning, Mr. Henry. Yeah, these autopilots. It is something that is, once again, we're removing human activity out of everyday lives of humans. And when you get somebody up there that's got one of those paid by PayPal college educations right there, you're going to get pilots in there that rely on this much more. And I believe that's where we're going into. Now, Mr. Kircher brought up the part that it may actually be something different than what we're talking about. But as the wreck scene comes back and we see that all the controls and the mechanicals, where he was talking about some flaps in the back part of the plane,
right?
That they're coming back from the crash site intact, that they are connected. So it ends up being that it's human error. And we really don't have proof that it's human error because the pilot sadly has gone down with the flight.
Yeah, now if you don't know what Ray's talking about here, the reason why they're saying it's probably human errors is the two crashes we've had over the past couple of weeks have all seemingly indicated the exact same flight pattern, the exact same timing, the exact same scenarios by which they crashed. That being, flights took off, were supposed to be at a destination that was a couple hours away, no more than about 15 or 20 or 30 minutes after leaving the initial runway from where they took off, rather. They signaled back and said, hey, we're having some problem. We want to see if we can flip around and land back on the runway that we just took off from. And then anywhere from, 10 seconds to 10 minutes after that signal was sent back to the air traffic control that they just left from, the plane goes down. Well, it's starting to look like now, just to catch everyone up with where Ray is, that there's an automated system, these fly-by-wire systems that Mr. Kircher was talking about before, that is intended to prevent a stall out. I suppose when you're gaining altitude, if you don't have enough power or thrust behind that, it's meant to prevent a stall out. But it does something to where the human interaction, if they do interact with that, could cause a problem. I guess because they're not up on protocol with just letting the system do what it's supposed to do. I don't know how that works, but I suppose that's where it's coming from.
Yeah, that's what I got also from him. This is very concerning to me because who's flying the plane, Mr. Henry?
Well,
is it the pilot or is it Boeing? I mean, this is really scary because as I was talking about Roz, we're creating this AI intelligence to remove human interaction. They are removing the human element out of our lives. This is going to end up being that when you go down to your local cafeteria and you tell the robot you want a hamburger without mustard, that thing's going to come out as a hot dog with mustard. And what do we do then? Do we throw the food back at them? It's unfortunate we lose so many lives to this artificial intelligence, and nobody wants to sit there and talk about the human aspect of life.
Well, but Ray, it's not just aviation, though, man. It's about to become literally everything. And by the way, Airbus is owned by a company entitled European Aerospace Company. I think the Airbus itself is just Airbus Industry. And I wanted to ask Mr. Kircher when he's on before. I just simply forgot to ask him. Is it true, the stats that we hear, that only about 10 to 20% of a flight is actually done by human interaction? That is to say that it's just the takeoff and the landing that's done by the actual pilots? The rest I've heard, and again, dude, I don't fly planes. I know nothing about aviation, but the rest I've heard is just an automated system where if you need to turn or bank or do something else, you literally just turn a dial. It's literally like a volume knob that you just turn left or right, or again, so I've heard. I have no idea, but it goes what Ray's talking about. And what I'm saying is it's not just aviation, man. Look what Tesla's about to do with the trucking industry. You know that the people, Americans without high school diplomas, the largest industry that they have for workers right now is the trucking industry. I'm pretty sure the second largest industry in America behind retail is the trucking industry in America. That is going to be devastating, absolutely devastating, not just for the interaction of can a truck truly drive itself, or are we going to start killing people with it, but also what it's going to do to jobs eventually.
Yeah, the jobs is we're going to take these fake college students and we're going to fill them in with it. And we're going to have a society of automation that's not going to serve anybody. And when it's getting into our trucking, into our cars, into our homes, into our transportation, up into the air, this is what I expect to see. I see no human involvement to save humans. And we're going to get a kind of society out here that is going to be so dependent on these machines, when it breaks down, I suspect suicide rates to go up.
Yeah, but this, see, I talk with Shine about this all the time, but and I say all the time, honestly, about 2 to 3 times a week, me and Shine talk about this on the phone on the way home from, Shannon and I talk all the time about politics, and we always do, but either on the way home from the show or during his lunch break or whatever else, man, and he has very similar fear as you do, and I'm starting to get there as well. It's frustrating for me because every libertarian bone in my body does not want to jump over to, forget about the laissez-faire free capital system. I don't want Tesla coming in here and taking jobs away from good, hardworking Americans. I don't care if that means putting a federal regulatory oversight committee into not letting that technology come to market. And when I say that, I'm starting to sound really a little bit more like Ocasio-Cortez than I want to. Now, with that being said, this is also what I ask Shine about sometimes is, aren't we just delaying the inevitable here, though, Ray? I mean, what's the situation? Was it with the cotton gins or with the printing press, or I don't know? Someone on Facebook will let me know where they went and just busted up a bunch of machines because they thought it was going to take over their jobs. That didn't do anything. It just delayed the inevitable. Aren't we just delaying the inevitable? Eventually, if it's not Tesla, somebody else is going to bring this technology to market, because I've heard the technology is already there for the self-driving cars. It's the roads. The roads aren't good enough yet for them to be able to signal everything along the way. If the roads were up to par, we'd already have this technology on the roads right now.
Yeah, but Mr. Henry, if it turns out what Captain Kircher was talking about, that it's this AI with human interaction, that's a plane up in the sky, Mr. Henry.
Yeah.
And we're talking about a single pilot, and it's bringing these things down. So you can't convince me it's a road. I believe it's those sensors like he was talking about. You get a certain vibration, you get a certain electrical charge through there, and the AI intelligence just kicks that out. Or presents it on graph paper or on the pilot screen, something that it isn't. Something that's not real. It's a fake artificial intelligence report. And the reality of it all is that the sensor has failed or is being confused by a vibration.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, buddy, my real fear with all this is, yeah, I got the fears of the Minority Report stuff. Yeah, I got the fears of police just being able to shut down your car. You were talking about a civil asset forfeiture now. Good Lord, what does the future look like? My real fear, though, is once everything is entirely reliant upon AI, we're not talking about nuclear warfare being the biggest threat to society anymore. We're talking about a suitcase EMP. You know what I'm saying? Like that. Yes. That's all it would take, would be for North Korea to smuggle in some stupid EMP to downtown Chicago, shut down that entire financial district, and then you want to see chaos? You want to see people become animals? You want to see how barbaric individuals can truly be? Take away their money, take away civilized society from civilized people, and see what ends up happening, man. We got to hit this break. I'll give you the last 30 seconds, though, buddy.
And I believe if you take away artificial intelligence, we're going to have a lot more lining up on the cliff to jump. Now, what Mr. Kircher brought on to me is that he still wants to fly.
Yeah.
So what do we do with that? I mean, we've got captains out there wanting to fly planes, and they're not letting them on.
Yeah.
That's to me, that's asinine. And to have the FAA sit there to think that Boeing can put a pilotless plane up in the air, because Boeing came out with that news article in 2017.
Yeah, that's true.
That they want to put pilotless planes in the air. Go ahead and put that into your tape player on Conspiracy Thursday morning and see if your pilot actually flies the plane the next time you get on.
Ray, I appreciate it, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
There goes Ray. Hey, Roz could fly that plane. What do you want to do here, Raj? You just want me to push this out another 2 to 3 minutes, and then we'll just hit the hard break, or you want to come back and pull a little Rush Limbaugh on him? Whatever. We'll hit this break. We'll discuss it during the middle of the break. I may come back and pull a Rush Limbaugh on you. Hey, this Rush Limbaugh. We have 30 seconds left. Let me say. Oh, we're out of time. Okay, sorry. Thanks, Nerdly. Okay, we'll do that. 7:54. Be right back.
Yeah, Bob, that 5G technology is a whole different ballgame too, man. I mean, I've seen people talk about tech industry experts saying 5G can manipulate some type of DNA or chromosome count or some type of like MK Ultra brainwashing project with 5G technology, or at a minimum, Alex Jones is preaching this thing now where it's literally cooking cells and causing cancer. I mean, I don't know. Richard, why would you send me this article? I'm not even going to tell you what article Richard just sent me. 'Yeah, that's the truth, Eric, right? I mean, it could go one of two ways with it. I mean, I guess like every other given fantastic technology, I suppose they said the same thing about Gutenberg, right? But 7:56
in the morning. Welcome back to Real News. We've got about 2 minutes left here before this break. Eric's saying in Facebook, we're talking about AI takeover. Not really takeover, but just AI implementation, which eventually will be an AI takeover. Let's be real about this. I mean, look, if you're a truck driver right now and you're not, even in this generation, legitimately fearful of Tesla introducing these trucks and this not taking your job away, I don't know what news you're following. I mean, you should be. You should be. Eric's saying in Facebook, though, we're talking about 5G stuff in Facebook. We're talking about, Bob said before, you know, those support verification surveys that the White House sends out. I answered one a while back where I said, I support you 100%, Mr. President, but if you continue to support AI and 5G technology, you've lost my vote. Eric goes on to say, with computing power being near godlike, we will discover things about the universe that helps us. Or we will meet Skynet, which is the truth, man. And I wonder sometimes, maybe we'll come back to this, maybe we'll come back with the call stories. I wonder sometimes, are we taking this a little bit too far in our day and age? I mean, wouldn't they have said the same thing about the printing press? That was one of the most revolutionary things that had ever been seen throughout all of human history. And I'm sure they were thinking, much like our internet would be their version of the printing press, this is going to, the access to information is going to be, it's too daunting to even comprehend. No, I don't know. It might be in a much larger scale now, given the entirety of all human knowledge we've ever had. But I don't know, man. 7:58, news, traffic, weather, all that. Be right back.
chemtrails? We're going all over the place. I guess it is Conspiracy Theory Thursday. All right, Facebook, what am I leaving y'all with? Stimpy's calling in about chemtrails. Hey, RC is who's also Ray, I assume. 10 to 15%. Did you get that from Captain Kircher? That's what I've heard, by the way. I just didn't know.
a universe that is very finely tuned to support our existence. Almost too finely tuned? I know you're going to find the next few minutes completely outrageous. I know there will be a few skeptics here in the audience. But with these 4 pieces of evidence, you just might find yourself believing what I'm about to tell you. That we may be living in a simulated universe, a computer-generated reality. Evidence number 1, a pixelated universe. Pictures and images are made up of pixels. No matter how high the resolution of an image is, it will still blur as you zoom in further. When you can see each and every individual pixel, it won't matter how much more you focus, because it holds no significance. Zooming further would have no meaning. It would reveal nothing smaller. In the real world, we can zoom down to see bacteria and viruses, then to the level of atoms, quarks, and superstrings, which are the bits and pieces that make up the whole image of reality. But like a computer screen, our reality too has a limit. Beyond Planck's length, which is the real-world equivalent of a single pixel, all sense of space and distance is lost. All meaning of space and distance ceases to exist. And exactly like a computer, our time too is discrete. It isn't continuous. Time isn't one smooth directional arrow, but made up of tiny discrete packets. It acts like the processing of a very fast computer in a progression of steady states. Think of it like a flip book, only so fast that it's almost seamless. Evidence number 2, matter is computable potential. Like an electron's potential to exist anywhere in the world until it is measured or observed, matter in our world is diffused. It doesn't have a definite shape or existence unless it is being looked at by something. The simple act of observing solidifies the action of light, and the same applies to matter and the universe. Pretty much like a video game where you're presented with the frame that you require to play. The rest of the virtual world, on the other hand, doesn't quite exist, but has the potential to be the next frame or the next level of the game. Evidence number 3, the ultimate shutdown. Our reality can be shut down. At low temperatures, things slow down. The metabolisms of cold-blooded animals, the movement of particles, and the reactions of atoms. At absolute zero, which is minus 273.15 degrees Celsius, everything comes to a complete and utter standstill. The world, the universe, stops like a frozen dark emptiness. And because there would be no traveling photons, there would be nothing to see. I'd show you a picture, but it would look just like that. Have you ever tried imagining nothingness? It's not even black or echoey like we would assume, because that would still be something rather than nothing. It would be like nothing ever really existed, much like how you can't access information on an unpowered computer. It's not necessarily there. As if someone had logged out and pulled the power on our world, everything black screens like a computer unplugged. And now we finally come to evidence number 4. We exist as information. Matter and energy are inextricably linked. We know that from Einstein's equation E is equal to mc squared. But what we don't realize is that matter and energy are all secondary aspects of reality. They are simply manifestations of the most fundamental of all, information. Everything around us is information. Atoms and molecules are information. The buildings we see around us are physical representations of their blueprints. Genes are information encoded into our DNA. Light and electromagnetic waves are forms of information, like radio waves traveling at the speed of light. The electrical signals racing to and from our brains. That is information. Accepting the fact that our reality is informational, it therefore follows that it will be computable. We seem to see a pattern forming over here. Our universe is pixelated. A matter isn't as real and as solid as we'd hoped. Our reality can be shut down, and we are ultimately informational, virtual beings so comparable to a computer program that it isn't a big jump to accept that we are possibly, no, we are probably living in a computer simulation. But why is that such a big deal? Why couldn't we just go on living like we always have? Because it would radically change our priorities as a species, our ideals and beliefs. Because everything that we thought we knew would completely fall apart, and we would have to begin our understanding anew while incorporating the fact that we are a computer simulation. We would be forced to accept that everything we do is analogous to a digital virtual command, and our lives are just a couple of megabytes on some cosmic hard drive processor. Our priorities would shift from unraveling the mysteries of the quantum world to decrypting the codes of the simulation that separates us from the higher reality. Would we try to correct the world's problems in a more effective way by hacking into the program that we live in? And what does something like this mean for our own virtual creations? We are so close to switching on our own realistic virtual realities. Last month, October 2012, a supercomputer with the name of Mirror and the mission to recreate the whole existence of the universe was turned on for the first time. With a machine so powerful and so complex already at our fingertips, human simulations will not be far behind. Simulations that will be so realistic that they will be self-aware. Simulations that will believe wholly in their existence and their reality. What morals would we be bound to in such cases? Would we allow ourselves the power to shut down these simulations when we ourselves may be computer generated? Being self-aware organisms, what steps would we take to ensure that we can prevent ourselves from ever being terminated? We would probably rebel against our programmers and try to take over our own simulations so as to prevent ourselves from ever being at the mercy of anyone's whims and fancies.
Hey!
It's 8:07 in the morning. Welcome back to Real News, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mr. Henry. We are broadcasting live from the FMT Insurance Studios. Crown Plaza call number if you have an opinion on anything we're talking about today, 865-888-TALK. That's 865-PUSH-888 and then push 8255. And then you'll eventually get to Roz, and she'll say, hey, what do you want to talk about? And then you'll tell her what you want to talk about. And then if it's not too controversial or if you don't cuss on air, then, we might put you on air. Hey, even if you do cuss on air, we'll probably put you on air. Who knows, We just fly by the seat of our pants here, right, Roz?
We'll drop you anyway, so
yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah, that's true. We do have a dump button now. Hey, can I get this computer going, Roz?
No.
Okay. Hey, let's go ahead and do at least one segment of this. I just kind of want to know what the Real News audience thinks about it. 865-888-TALK again. That's 865-888-8255. That's a Crown Plaza call number. Let me know what you think about, let's just play it. What you think about this right here.
Faking disabilities, photoshopping faces onto faking disabilities, photoshopping faces onto different students' bodies, paying millions in bribes. All of this was allegedly part of a scam to ensure that kids from rich American families got into college. We have the facts. In conversations with parents recorded by the FBI under a court-approved warrant, admissions consultant William Singer described the process. The front door meant getting into college on their own. Most students take the SAT or the ACT, write essays, and get recommendation letters, all factors that would help a student's admission. The average cost for an SAT or ACT tutor can range anywhere between $50 to $200 an hour. But as colleges have been getting more competitive, especially in the elite schools, some of the wealthiest families have discovered loopholes. The back door is institutional advancement, one of which is becoming a major donor to colleges. The nation's wealthy buy their children into prestigious schools with tax write-offs and other donations. Now, there's this side door. It's the door that admissions consultant William Singer had on getting his clients into college. The key to the door had a price, anywhere between $15,000 to $75,000 per test. Here's how Singer did it. The first of which, bribing college exam administrations. Singer's sham college counseling group would help set up bribes to administrators of the SAT and ACT. These administrators would take the test for the students or give them the answers during the exam. And in some cases, their tests might be revised after. Standardized exams would generally take place in large group sessions. Those students with disabilities are allowed extra time. That meant parents would have to lie about their children having a learning disability. Universities and colleges who compete in sports nationally have special slots designated for student athletes. Typically, the academic requirements for such slots are less stringent than they would be for a traditional student. Parents paid Singer between $100,000 and $6.5 million to carry out the athletics admission scheme. In exchange, coaches would reserve an admission slot for sports that students wouldn't even play. On some occasions, photos of athletes were doctored using Photoshop. Despite the tabloid details, the ones who this scandal really affect are lower income and middle income students who don't have the advantage of donating a building or paying thousands to cheat.
There it
Gentlewoman
is.
from New York.
There it is. Hush, Alexander Cortez. And I really just want to know what the real news audience thinks. Again, I started out this morning by saying this is not a news story. It's not. Richard just called it or just texted me and said, I can hear the producer of the college scam story, Alex Jones, voice saying, "We have the documents right here. The documentation." They're turning the frogs gay at college. I told you. Send your kid to college, you're going to turn into a gay frog. This is not a news story. It's not. It's really not. Shine said in Facebook earlier, I want to say, if I can find this comment again, who this really hurts is exactly what the audio just said there, too. It hurts the middle-income people that are actually trying to make a good run of it. He says that ACT and SAT fraud hurts everyone. It does. Artificially inflating the numbers hurts the people that actually are trying to get into college through legitimate means. And one might have to think to themselves, too, how is this guy so good? Why not just get a 1600 on the SAT? Well, because that anomaly would set off some red flags, wouldn't it? If the first time you take an SAT, you get an 1150, and then all of a sudden, the second time you take it, you get a perfect score, somebody's going to start asking questions. If, however, you have a 300 to 400 point increase in the first to second to third time you're taking these tests, I don't know, it's really not going to set off too many red flags. And the red flags that it should set off, you're paying to make sure that it doesn't set those red flags off. And yet, one more time, someone might ask, okay, cheat, bribe, lie. Here's the CNN headline. Cheat, bribe, lie. Here's how the college admission scams allegedly worked. College admission schemes revealed Tuesday is the largest of its kind ever prosecuted, federal prosecutors said. Well, yeah, okay, but it's the largest ever prosecuted, but we all know it's been going on for a very, very long time. Man, come on. You don't think for a second that if your last name is on a building at an institution somewhere, you're not a shoo-in in there? They have a thing called legacies at fraternities and sororities. If your mother or your father was a member of that sorority or that fraternity, or fraternity or sorority, if I'm being proper here with the way I'm setting this up, then the legacy is that you're supposed to get an automatic bid. The same thing happens at a much higher scale. If your last name is on the building somewhere at UT or whatever else, it's highly likely you're going to get into that school if you want to. It just makes sense. CNN goes on to say, but at its core, the alleged scheme is remarkably simple and brazen. Cheat on standardized tests, bribe the people who decide which students get admitted, all the while pretending that money was for charity. This is U.S. Attorney Andrew Ling saying, referring to William Singer, the figure at the center of the scheme, is the attorney talking about the guy at the center of the scheme saying, I'll speak more broadly. There were essentially two kinds of fraud that Singer was selling. One was to cheat on the SAT and the ACT, and the other was to use his connections with Division I coaches and use bribes to get these parents' kids into school with fake athletic credentials. So here's the two bribe schemes. You got the backdoor policy of just pay enough, the millions of dollars, put your name on a building. You have the side door policy of, let me help you cheat on the SAT and the ACT. Or you have the other side door policy on the West Wing of the idea of the soft bigotry of low expectations. Now, I don't know who coined that term, but it's extremely fitting right now. Soft bigotry of low expectations. We expect these athletes to have a less rigorous academic sort of what standard that they have to meet because they just can't do it on their own, poor athletes. That's the soft bigotry of low expectations. So what do? You just play into that soft bigotry, which is so insanely disgusting, y'all. I'm telling you, man, if you're an individual that cannot make it on your own, don't exploit a situation by which you think athletes, you just like there's some I don't know, some dumb grunt or whatever, they can't do it on their own either. So I'm going to get in with that ilk and that crowd, and I'm going to make myself seem like one of them. So now all of a sudden, you know what I'm saying? You're perpetuating a terrible cycle. A total of 50 people were charged in the case. Those arrested include 2 SAT and ACT administrators. They should be, obviously never have a job in this realm at all. 1 exam proctor, 9 coaches at elite schools, 1 college administrator, and 33 parents. Now, they go on to tell you how the plan works, and I'll get into some of those details here in a second. Maybe you don't care too much about how the plan works. Maybe you just care about the analysis that I might give. I'll say one more time. I got 2 big things to say about this. The first being, this individual who played, whoever the girl was on Step Up or House Step House, or what? Facebook, help me. What was the name of that show? Step by Step, I think. Becky or Rebecca. Man, it's been a while, y'all. Whatever that show was. Her daughter was one of these individuals that caught up in that scheme. Now, you look at this individual. She's already a model that's getting paid $50,000 per Instagram post. I'm not paying you.
Full House.
Full House. Full House? What did I say? Okay, thank you, Full House. Roz is always on it. I'm not making this up. Every time she posts on Instagram, the girl gets about $50,000 just for posting on Instagram, whether she's endorsing lipstick or whatever else. She's getting paid millions of dollars per year, and I might be exaggerating the numbers a little bit, but it's something in that realm. She's a very high-profile model. She doesn't necessarily need Harvard. In fact, during an interview, which I can pull the audio clip if you want me to, during an interview talking about her being accepted to Harvard, she said, I don't really know how much I can make it to my classes because I have to be in Milan this week. And the whole first week of school, I have to be out doing a photo shoot over here. The second week of school, I have to be out doing this job placement thing over here. The 6th week in school, the entire week of that, I have to go promoting this makeup line. She's going to be gone for 2/3 of the semester anyways. She didn't care about that college. It wasn't about her getting a college education. In fact, for the vast majority of people that go to college now, unfortunately, I would say it's not really about them getting that college education. Even for those, their parents are not bribing them to get into school, which is the vast majority of all of us. It's only about spending 50 grand or 70 grand or 150 grand to get that stupid line on a resume. All you want is that $80,000 piece of paper. Let's be real. Let's be really real about this. This is real news, right? All you really want at the end of the day, even for your average common Joe, a guy like me, all you want is that $80,000 piece of paper that you can put on a resume that some other person's looking out there saying, yeah, I can give you a job for that. The binary choice that I gave before, and then I'm going to get to Lee's call here in just a second. The binary choice I gave before, if you had an option to have a line on a resume that said, hey, you graduated from Harvard, or you may not be able to put this on a resume. You may just be able to plead with the person that's trying to hire you. Or you had every single skill set needed to completely do what was required at your job and excel at your job. I'm pretty sure most people would pick that Harvard line. But for the Hollywood elite, for someone like who played, was it Becky? Was that her name on Full House?
Yeah.
All right, so for someone who played Becky, for her daughter, who's already a very, very independently wealthy individual, who's not even at college yet, not from her parents' money, from her own doing. And good on her, I suppose. For someone like her who's already independently wealthy, which one might presume is why you go to Harvard in the first place, so you can become independently wealthy later on. I mean, Bill Gates didn't need Harvard. Mark Zuckerberg didn't need Harvard any more than he already had, right? The reason why the Hollywood elite does that again is because it's a signaling to the other elite class. That's what it is. It's because you can punch your card to the same country club. When you whip out your country club card that says, hey, I'm part of country club elite class A. And then you whip out the other card and, I'm only part of country club elite class A subclass 1. Well, get out of here, you plebe. That's terrible. You're subhuman to me. You went to Yale? Come on my level, get to the Harvard levels. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. So this individual can go hang out with her friends, and she's not socially ostracized because she's the only one that has a daughter that's not going to Harvard. Because amongst this crowd with the Hollywood elite, they all know full well it's not about academic credentials. It's about, oh, you don't have enough influence, do you? You've lost your Hollywood status symbol, haven't you? You're not an A-lister anymore, aren't you? You don't have enough money, power, or influence to bribe your kid into Harvard. That's what it's about. It's not about your kid making a 1600 in the SAT. Even if your kid did make a 1600 in the SAT, you would still not have enough power to get him in here. That's what it's about for the Hollywood elite. That's what it's about for these people that are cheating to get their kids in, that really don't need to get their kids. That girl doesn't need a Harvard education. Her parents need her to have a Harvard education.
This is such a common thing, though. They just got caught.
Yeah, I know. It's an extremely common thing.
There's politics all up and through those colleges.
And I found this clip from I'm going to say this one last time, then get to Lee's call when we come back. I found this clip from Good Will Hunting. Unfortunately, there's too many F-bombs dropped in it, and maybe I can get Roz to cut it up for me or something. But he says, look, At some point, 50 years from now, this guy's going to Harvard. 50 years from now, you're going to start thinking to yourself two things. One, don't do that. Meaning, don't think about things you regret in your life. That's never going to get you anywhere. Second, you're going to realize that you spent $150,000 in education you could have got for $1.50 in late fees at the public library, and he's right. He's right. He's absolutely right, man. Think not just about what this means for the Hollywood elite. Think about what this says about the indoctrination system. Think about what this says about the upper echelons of academia in this country now. It is a country club. It's not an education program anymore, y'all. Forget about all that nonsense. Go become a plumber and become a master plumber or master electrician or something like that, and don't get in college debt. I can go on for days. 8:20. Hit this break. Be right back.
Was she was on Survivor? Honestly, I don't know how much I blame these kids for it either, though. A 16, 17-year-old kid just being directed to do something by their parents. I mean, I know they have some form of culpability here, but at the same time, I mean, good Lord, dude. If I was 16, 17 years old and my parents were saying, hey, go take this SAT one more time, they're going to give you the test scores. Just write down what's right and what's wrong, or let this person take the test for you. You know what I mean? I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but... Hey, here's another one, too, that I really want to get to today. Forbes just came out with an article saying how you can easily make 300% profit off the Green New Deal. And his basic assumption is invest in nuclear. He says invest in nuclear and invest in uranium. The uranium sector has collapsed, uranium demand plunged. But even climate change pushers, the ones that are pushing for like new carbon tax, new economic system, the whole deal, they're even saying that nuclear is the cleanest form of energy production that we have available right now. So much so, where's the stat? Yeah, in fact, the International Panel on Climate Change, which is like the panel that pushes this freaking nonsense, the International Panel on Climate Change found nuclear power produces less air pollution than solar, wind, or hydro. It's crazy, right? Nuclear, man, I'm telling you, it's the way to go. France figured it out. Yeah, Bob, dude, I don't know what happened to my generation, man. In some industries, it's always been that way. I think as long as law has been around, for example, they've always told you the LSAT's not going to prep you for law school, and law school is not going to prep you to figure out how to become an attorney. Law school, all it does is it just brainwashes you into a different way of thinking. That's all that law school is meant to do, which is purposeful, but it's not going to teach you how to become an attorney. But at the same time, it's like unless you're going to school to learn a specific skill set, primarily the sciences, I would say, your engineerings, I don't know, possibly nursing, mathematics, any of the sciences, unless you're going to school for that, I don't know. I don't know what you're doing, man. I feel like an internship might be better off for you, but
doing some thinking on your own, and you're going to come up with the fact that there are two certainties in life. One, don't do that. And two, you dropped 150 grand on a fucking education you could have got for $1.50 in late charges at the public library.
Eight. Hey, it's 8:24 in the morning.
Welcome back to Real News, ladies and gentlemen. Going to Lee's call here in just a second. Let's see. I was asking Facebook off air, how much does the Facebook audience actually blame these children? Because, let's be honest, that's what they are, 16, 17-year-old kids. Maybe some of them are 18. If they're 18, it's probably a different legal standard. It might be a different legal standard depending on what state you're in as well. But 16, 17-year-old kids, how much can you blame them if their Hollywood A-lister parents are coming to them and saying, hey, retake the SAT, they're just going to give you this test. Or matter of fact, don't even retake the SAT, someone's going to retake it for you. Did they even know about this scam? Possibly, who knows?
I don't think the kids knew.
Do you not think so?
I
mean, in some cases they may not have. Right.
So
I mean, in some cases I think
now that they know, and, all of us know, wouldn't you be mad?
I would be mad.
You're like, wow, Mom, that's what you think of me?
Yeah.
That I'm not smart enough to get it on my own?
Like, how little do you think of me? Like, you have to put my face in some pole vaulter kid's face because I can't do that on my own. You have to get me to fake an SAT score because I'm too dumb to get into Harvard on my own. Just let me go to one of these state colleges, man. William's saying on Facebook, though, they have to be held accountable for their actions if they knew about it and hold them accountable. Let's see. Bob says, yep, I hear you, Mr. Henry. These kids expect to jump immediately into an 80K plus job with false creds and no experience. Yeah, and I was saying too, unless you're going to school to figure out some specific skill set in the sciences, STEM, lawyers, and doctors, Norm's saying, I don't know. I don't want to be mean here, man, but maybe college isn't for you. Maybe we just flooded the market. Maybe we've saturated the market with a whole bunch of would-be professors. You get what I'm saying? Maybe that's why some barista at Starbucks is making up your coffee that has 2 PhDs. Maybe that's why Mr. Henry's sitting on here with a JD. Anyways, 8:26. Let's go to Lee. He's been hanging on through the break. Cheating scandals, the subheading here. Lee, thanks for hanging on so long, buddy. What's on your mind?
Hey, how are you today?
Doing well, sir.
Yeah, you were talking about this. My son actually went to one of the schools that got nailed up in Northeast. He went to one of the Ivy League schools.
Oh, nice.
The Ivy League. Yeah, he went up to Yale. And he had gotten in, but he had played ball. He played football. And so they keep spots. I mean, he would not have gotten in. I mean, we're middle-class people. We couldn't have paid for that. But they give you like a full scholarship. They do it by need. But, yeah, I was talking about him. That's a big talk up there. It was the soccer coach, I think, got $400,000 to say a girl that didn't even play soccer was on the soccer team. So.
Yeah, and Lee, before you carry on, what Lee's talking about here, that's one of the ways they did the scam. They would set up a fake sort of student-athlete account because I guess Title IX gives only so many provisions. They would set up a sort of fake student-athlete account where this supposed student-athlete would come in, not actually playing the sport, but the coaches get paid $400,000 on the side to do this to make it look like on paper that there's an athlete coming in so they can get in under less rigorous academic credentials or standards. Anyway, sorry to interrupt, Lee. Go on.
Right. Yeah, you're right. And they didn't do it like football or basketball where you would know if somebody could play or not.
It was like rowing and pole vaulting, right?
Yeah, it was, I think, sailing out in Stanford and that kind of deal. But you had mentioned one thing, and my son did get a very good, I mean, he's in New York City as a lawyer in New York City right out of school after he went to law school. But the thing about those schools, and I had a son that went to the University of the South as well, and they were both equally as smart, but the one at Sewanee actually had to work a lot harder. The thing about Yale and Harvard and places like that is it is getting in, and it's kind of like the mob. Said if you start falling behind, you get 2 and 3 and 4 tutors, anything you need. They're going to make sure you graduate. Unless you die, you're going to graduate from the school.
Is that right? Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's about getting in, and then it's about it helps you punch your ticket if you can graduate from those schools. I guess that's why they fight so hard to get in. But he was very fortunate, but he did it all on his own. So. Well,
that's what I've always heard, Lee. It's interesting you say that. Even when they were talking in law school, specifically about Harvard Law, they always used to say that it was fairly easy, not fairly easy, but it was moderately easy to get in, but it was near impossible to graduate with a degree. Now those stats are completely reversed, and I've never really had any anecdotal evidence for that. I appreciate you telling me that too, because you have to look on these national scales when they rank these tiers of law school. A lot of it has to do with graduation rate, and a lot of it has to do with graduation rate and bar passes percentage rate as well. Well, if you're not graduating any kids, none of your kids are taking the bar. If none of your kids are taking the bar, you're not exactly competing at a state level, and you have to continually maintain. So, it's interesting you say, like, it's near impossible to get in now, but once you're in, man, do they want to make sure you pass.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I just wanted to pass that on with firsthand experience that we dealt with. Thank you, buddy.
I appreciate it, Lee. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Hey, there goes Leah. Interesting commentary there. Al finishes up by just giving a couple quick ideas as to how they were cheating. Obviously, cheating on the ACTs and the SATs, not surprising anybody, getting people to take the test for them. Some instances, too, they were actually paying off proctors to... you would have your child listed as having some learning disability, and if you have a learning disability, you get longer time to take a test. So I guess when the other kids leave the room, or if they put you in a separate room, they would actually... Some of the proctors would slip you answers to the test. Who's calling me right now? Oh, no, that's an alarm. Caller Matt. That's right. Caller Matt coming in for Conspiracy Theory Thursday. Obviously, we just spoke about bribing the coaches for spots. Let's see. False charitable donations as well was another way they were getting these kids in. Again, it shouldn't be a surprising story to anybody, but, you know, it really, the harm that it's doing is the people that are legitimately trying to get in, working hard as they possibly can. There was a person up the road from me. I don't want to give this individual's name on air, nor do I want to give sex on air, female or male. It might, if you know where I live, you might know who I'm talking about. But this individual started practice LSATs, LSATs to get into law school when she was a sophomore in high school. Now, this individual was not the most intelligent person you've ever run across, but had a work ethic that was just unparalleled. I'm talking, started taking LSATs as a sophomore in high school, okay? Graduated with a fairly decent GPA, went into college, graduated with a fairly decent GPA in college, and continually practiced LSATs, where she ended up scoring one of the best scores you can possibly get on the LSAT in the entire nation. It was like 178 or something, I don't know, don't quote me on the numbers there. She ended up getting into Harvard Law School, though. She ended up getting into Harvard Law School because her work ethic was that good. She just, from a dream from a freshman in high school, she said, I want to go to Harvard Law School. I want to become an attorney. She made that dream happen. Well, here's the problem that it's about. For a person like that, who has that ambition and that drive as a freshman in high school, now her degree is tainted. That law degree is not fully. Not even anything to the extent of someone's going to look more, oh, you have a Harvard Law degree? Yeah, your school just got ran over, didn't it? Not really, but at least just some marginal level where it's looking like you went to a pay-for-play school. Now, you may not have paid to play, but a lot of people there went to a pay-for-play school. It really, really hampers the reputation of that school, not just at the university level, not just across the United States, but across the world. People are going to start going to Oxford now. 8:32 at this break. Be right back.
Maybe I could buy you.
Let's see how close I got to that quote.
Is your own idea just to impress some girls? Embarrass my friend? See, the sad thing about a guy like you is in 50 years, you're going to start doing some thinking on your own, and you're going to come up with the fact that there are two certainties in life. One, don't do that. And two, you dropped 150 grand on a fucking education you could have got for $1.50 in late charges at the public library.
Oh, it's pretty close. I just didn't say charges. Late charges at the public library.
Yeah, but I will have a degree. And you'll be serving my kids fries at a drive-thru on our way to a skiing trip.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but at least I won't be unoriginal. But I mean, if you have a problem like that, we could just step outside and we can figure it out.
There's no problem. It's cool.
Dudes being dudes. I'll make more money than you. Well, I can beat you up, bro. My sister, law professor of physics at Syracuse. Ooh. I want to talk to her. She actually challenged the veracity of her Harvard physics professor, basically told them to take down the fraudulent data or else. Oh! Throwing down that physics gauntlet. Throwing down the physics gauntlet. Yeah, how you like them apples? That's right. That's one of my favorite scenes in that whole movie. I'm going to play it again just for Facebook. Gordon Wood. Gordon Wood.
So I think I had a class with you.
Oh, yeah? What kind?
History.
Maybe.
Yes.
think that's what it was. You don't necessarily might not remember me. You know, I like it here. It doesn't mean because I go here I'm a genius. I am very smart. Hey, how's it going? How are you?
How you doing?
You want?
I don't. What class did you say that was?
History. Yeah.
Just history. It must have been a survey course then, huh?
Yeah, it was. It was surveys.
Right.
You should check it out. It's a good course. It's a good, big, good class.
How'd you like that course?
You know, frankly.
Hey, did you ever hear Family Guy's take on good morning? Here's Family Guy's take.
So you can be successful writers like Ben Affleck and Matt Damon.
There, finished. Good Will Hunting by Matt Damon.
Hey, you think we could put both our names on that?
What? You've done nothing but eat briars and smoke pot for the last 6 months.
Oh, that's ridiculous. Come on, I helped.
Oh, yeah? Okay, write a line. Just right now. Just pitch me a line right now.
Okay. How about that?
That wasn't a line. You just farted.
There any more?
That's Ben Affleck. Yeah, that's right.
I found the class, you know, rather elementary.
Elementary. You know, I don't doubt that it was.
Yeah.
I remember that class. It was just between recess and lunch.
Why don't you go away?
Why don't you relax?
Please go away.
I'm just having fun with my new friend, that's all.
You gonna have a problem?
No. There's no problem here. I was just hoping you might give me some insight into the evolution of the market economy in the southern colonies. My contention is that prior to the Revolutionary War, the economic modalities, especially in the southern colonies, could most aptly be characterized as agrarian pre-capital.
All right, of course that's your
Hang on a
contention.
second.
You're a first-year grad student. You just got finished reading some Marxian historian, Pete Garrison, probably. You're going to be convinced of that till next month when you get to James Lemon. Then you're going to be talking about how the economies of Virginia and Pennsylvania were entrepreneurial and capitalist way back in 1740. That's going to last until next year. You're going to be in here regurgitating Gordon Wood.
Gordon Wood? I had a Boston accent.
Talking about, you know, the pre-revolutionary utopia and the capital-forming effects of military mobilization.
As a matter of fact, I won't, because Wood drastically underestimates the impact of social...
Wood drastically underestimates the impact of social distinctions predicated upon wealth, especially inherited wealth. You got that from Vickers. Work in Essex County, page 98, right? Yeah, I read that too. Are you going to plagiarize the whole thing for us? Do you have any thoughts of your own on this matter? Or do you just, is that your thing? You come into a bar, you read some obscure passage, and then pretend you pawn it off as your own idea just to impress some girls? Embarrass my friend? See, the sad thing about a guy like you is in 50 years, you're going to start doing some thinking on your own, and you're going to come up with the fact that there are two certainties in life. One, don't do that. And two, you dropped 150 grand on a fucking education you could have got for $1.50 in late charges at the public library.
Yeah, but I will have a degree. And you'll be serving my kids fries at a drive-thru on our way to a skiing trip.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but at least I won't be unoriginal. But I mean, if you have a problem like that, I mean, we could just step outside and we could figure it out.
Oh, yeah, there's no problem.
It's cool. It's cool. Yeah, cool. You're damn right, it's cool. How you like me now?
It's the impact of social...
Wood drastically underestimates the impact of social distinctions predicated upon wealth, especially inherited wealth. You got that from Vickers. Work in Essex County, page 98, right? Yeah, I read that too. Are you going to plagiarize the whole thing for us? Do you have any thoughts of your own on this matter? Or do you, is that your thing? You come into a bar, you read some obscure passage, and then pretend you pawn it off as your own idea just to impress some girls? Embarrass my friend? See, the sad thing about a guy like you is in 50 years, you're going to start doing some thinking on your own, and you're going to come up with the fact that there are two certainties in life. One, don't do that. And two, you dropped 150 grand on a fucking education you could have got for $1.50 in late charges at the public library.
Yeah, but I will have a degree. And you'll be serving my kids fries at a drive-thru on our way to a skiing trip.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but at least I won't be unoriginal. But I mean, if you have a problem like that, I mean, we could just step outside and we could figure it out.
Oh, yeah, there's no problem.
It's cool. It's cool. Yeah, cool. You're damn right, it's cool. How you like me now? My voice went and smart.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of the whole scene. My boy's wicked smart. That's so stupid. My boy's wicked smart.
Ready, set, go, rise, ready, set, go.
Hey.
Doing everything. You know, they're singing, they're acting.
Well, and it used to be that everyone in Hollywood was some kind of multi-hyphenate, right? The triple threat actor,
Right.
Singer, dancer, and actor, right? Well, now the multi-hyphenate has sort of transitioned into everybody's an actor, a producer, a director, a writer. I mean, how many times Ben Affleck won a Grammy, an Oscar for a screenwriter, I believe, and an Oscar for a director. Is yet to win for actors. I mean, and he's an actor. Hey, I want to say this too. If we have time during the 9 o'clock hour, you're definitely going to want to take Mr. Henry's financial advice. But this one in particular is coming from Forbes, so you can trust me. I'm going to tell you how you can easily make a 300% profit off of Alexander Cortez's Green New Deal. 300% profit. You want to start investing in stuff right now? Invest in the uranium sector. I'll fill that in later. Let's go to Richard talking about the cheating scandal. What's on your mind, sir?
Hey, yeah, I was just going to mention the few years ago, UNC, it came out that they had fake classes for their athletes, and it's been going on for at least 20 years.
You talking about Chapel Hill?
Yes.
Oh, wow. All right.
So it just, to me, it just kind of, they're showing their hand saying, we're just businesses looking to make money.
No, man, I mean, that's what it's always been about, Richard. Look, I remember even when I went to UT, which wasn't too long ago, you could tell the football players, man, I mean, they're physical specimens, man. You could tell the football players when you come into a freshman course that has 500 people in there, they would usually be in the back of the class or the front of the class. Suffice to say, they would usually be sitting together. The average height amongst all of them is 6'6". They're physical specimens. They would show up on, and I don't mean to disparage athletes, man. I'm really, really sorry. This is not what I'm trying to say, but I'm talking about Division I universities. This was my experience anyways. People on Facebook tell me if you have a different experience. The athletes would usually show up on day one, possibly day two. I wouldn't see them for the rest of the semester. They'd show up for the final and somehow make a B+ in the final. Go ahead, Richard.
Well, it seems like as well that the FBI maybe just made an example out of these two celebrities because they're not, pushing the agenda like some of the others. So they just go ahead and make it look like they're doing something rather than it actually be something.
Yeah, and you take down the Hollywood elite, right?
I would be willing to bet that they're not the only stories out there. And you've got stories like Chelsea Clinton, who she makes $500,000 from NBC a year for doing, 2 stories a year?
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Exactly, man. And look, this is a very controversial opinion of mine, Richard, but this is what I've always said. This is yet one more reason why I say just start paying these kids, man. Just start paying these kids. Separate it. Let's call it for what it is.
Sure.
Yeah, just pay these athletes. Separate the whole student-athlete thing from call it for what it is. It's a farm league for the NFL. It's a farm league for the NFL. Start paying them like it's a farm league for the NFL. Dude, the SEC alone, what did they make, $575 million last year? Just one conference alone off football? Only off of football.
Collegiate licensing is like $1.5 billion. All the logoed material that they sell.
Yeah, man, and they can't make any money off their likeness, even though everyone else is profiting off their likeness. But no, they're student athletes.
But they've had $100 and $200 $300 handshakes for touchdowns and 3-pointers.
Right. And I've heard stories too, even at smaller Division I schools. I've heard stories about people, these boosters coming in the back rooms after a good game and slipping you an unmarked manila envelope in your pocket that has, $1,500 worth of cash in it. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know how much I can really blame those kids for taking that. They're not allowed to have jobs. They want to go out on dates. They have cell phone bills as well.
Yeah, I knew somebody that was at a small school. He didn't have a lot of money growing up. He got a scholarship to go to school, and you could only eat when the cafeteria was open. You had a meal plan, sure, but you're still going to bed hungry because you missed the time to get there.
Yeah, dude. And look, don't get me wrong. The cafeteria food at these student athletes, whatever the centers they have, is far better than your average run-of-the-mill cafeteria food that your other students are getting. But with that being said, I'm not going to take a date to a cafeteria at the student center. So you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to date girls in college. I'm trying to pay cell phone bills. I got other stuff going on, man. I want to buy nice things every now and then too. If I'm not even allowed to work, you know where I'm coming from, Richard. I got to get to Wes here on the other line too. But thanks for the call, Richard.
We'll see you.
Look, again, one last time, man. I think it's very interesting that Richard brings up a good point. It's very interesting that they chose the Hollywood elite to make this a case out of this, because this happens all over the place. They could have done this They could have done this at any given institution they wanted to. They could have done it at UC Berkeley. They could have done it at USC, which USC I think was one of them. They could have done this at Florida. They could have done it at UT possibly. I don't know. It's very interesting, though, they chose the Hollywood elite to make an example out of this, because it really puts on full display one more time. For the Hollywood elite, it's not about the education. It's about signaling to the other upper echelon that you are part of the club, that you have been through the indoctrination program, you have the initiation rights, you have the resume that will allow you to proceed forward with the initiation rights. Now, with that being said, let's go to Wes. He has an interesting comment here. Subheading Wes says, Albert Davis falsely accused from UT. Now, unfortunately, sir, this is a story I'm not too familiar with yet. Fill me in on some of the blanks there, and let me know what you're talking about.
Well, Albert Davis, for many of your listeners, was a outstanding football player. Played for Alcoa High School in the late '60s. Absolutely incredible player. Was the first. Should have been the first black player for UT, black football player at UT. Got accepted, got a scholarship, then was falsely accused of cheating on his SATs. And so they rescinded it. And but Mr. Davis went on to play at another university. I believe it was Tennessee Tech, if I'm not mistaken, Tennessee State. Some of your listeners can correct some of my facts, but he had an outstanding career there, went on to play in the NFL, went on and got his master's degree. I believe he got a doctorate, was in the education field.
Oh, wow.
And just an absolutely incredible gentleman, and lives in the Alcoa area today. I think he'd be a fine guest to have on your show someday.
Yeah, we'll definitely reach out to him. Now, when you say that he was falsely accused from UT, I presume what you mean now is not circulating around this current story that the FBI is cracking down on people, but back in the day when he was falsely accused of fabricating SAT information, right?
Right. This put me in mind of this whole thing with the celebrities cheating on exams or paying bribes. Put me in mind of Mr. Davis, who a generation or two ago took an SAT. Of course, we know what it was like in the '60s, and
sure, yeah.
So there were some shenanigans going on, and but I say falsely accused. I believe he was falsely accused. Seeing that this gentleman did well in school, in the university, went on and got his master's, went on into education. I believe he was actually even a principal of a school. So anyway, it would be worth it, I think, to do some background on that. Listen to what other other of your listeners have to say about Mr. Davis.
Yeah, I'll get Richard to see if we can reach out to him, especially if he's affiliated with UT and still lives in the Alcoa area. I'm sure we could find him somewhere. And given this story right now, it'd still be relevant. Wes, man, thanks for the comments and the insight. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, have a good one.
Thank you. Appreciate Wes for bringing that information up to us. And again, Wes brings up the story, and it just goes even more to what we were saying before of, I think Wes was touching on a little bit of we've said this style of thing has been going on for a very, very long time. A very long time. And I don't mean to bring in the conversation too much of paying these college athletes, and maybe we should separate this because that's not what this is about. But at the same time, it is a little bit about that. To be able to exploit these sort of college athlete aspect of what's going on here, it's a little bit too much for me, man. Just pay these kids. 8:50 in the morning, hit this break, be right back.
What is happening?
What's up, bruv?
Where you want me at?
Right yonder.
All right.
In the yellow chair, Chattahoochee.
How you been?
What's up, man?
Run away, sitting in traffic. Getting the kid to school.
I feel you.
Not sleeping. The usual. How have you been?
Huh?
How have you been?
Pretty good, man.
I forgot your Christmas present.
Yeah, you got me a Christmas present?
Yeah, you shaved your beard though, so I'm like, well, I'm just gonna hold on to this Christmas present. No, I'm subscribed to one of those monthly boxes. They sent us really nice, like beard grooming, oil, lotion.
Oh, really?
You shaved your beard. I'm like, I was like, I can't use this, but I know who can.
That's awesome.
Oh, I had zero time. Russ texted me at 11 on what you guys wanted to do. I was literally on my way to bed. So
yeah, dude, I figured I was reading those texts, man. I was like, this is going to be so much stuff. I don't know where to go with it.
Well,
Ask Matt if we could touch on the John Lennon stuff.
Roz wants you to
I
touch.
needed about an hour to get back into. I haven't looked at this material since 2011.
Okay.
But
we can figure something out.
I know enough.
Okay.
I can BS it.
Roz wants you to touch John Lennon in inappropriate ways.
Paul McCartney is who they replaced.
Can we talk about Paul McCartney touching John Lennon?
What?
I'm sure that happened at some point. The tripping acid up with
Probably, yeah.
the Buddhist monks, you know what I
I
mean?
would not put that past them.
Yeah.
You're
We're all
absolutely
in
right.
the OTO. So.
First window world. In fact,
That is a blood, sex, magic cult. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're all in the OTO. All the Beatles.
I would be surprised by a band.
Oh, no. They were all into Crowley. That's where the Beatles hanging out with Charles Manson, partying with him. Charles Manson partied with the Beach Boys all the time.
Yeah, I do know that. I said that on air one time, man, and I got freaking excoriated by it.
No, Helter Skelter.
Yeah.
They wrote that together. Who do you think was giving LSD to the Beach Boys?
Right.
It was Manson. Dude, I'm down. Any and all. You're talking Harvard. I love that. There's a few things about Harvard.
All right.
And they actually tie into some other stuff.
We can talk like skull and bone stuff too, man. And I mean, whatever. Whatever.
What I'm down. You know me, I can run my home about anything.
Paul McCartney? Aaron says Paul?
Well, yeah, they call him Paul, fake Paul.
Oh,
like
fake
even,
Paul.
even in the band, Ringo and Lennon and them, they called him Paul.
Really?
Yeah, and in one of the album covers, they push him to the side. He's off by himself. And they're staring at the grave of Paul McCartney while this Paul, the new Paul, is off to the side on the album cover.
Creepy.
Yeah, it was after a car wreck.
Jeez.
I mean, I know enough about it, man. I mean, but I literally have so much shit packed into my head. Trying to unpack it can be difficult at times. You know, about the celebrities playing multiple roles, the thing is nobody knows they're playing. They're collecting checks with different names. They're doing 3 and 4 different things.
Yeah, now that actually doesn't surprise me at
No,
all.
they're disguising themselves and doing music and acting here, being this character, getting paid. Then they can kill a character off and get really paid.
Yeah, yeah.
And then come up with a new character. really a great scam they get.
The bigger the name, the weirder.
Is this your camera?
Yeah. Hang on.
There you go.
Yeah, I got it.
It's with the fake Paul. It's got all the scientific stuff in it. This is a mystic more famous than Aleister Crowley.
Hey, it's 8:55
in the morning. That means we only have like 3 minutes left. My buddy Caller Matt's in studio with us, getting ready for Conspiracy Theory Thursday. Let me make this point real quick, and I'm going to have to probably pull this story back up again tomorrow because it's a point that I used to make, and Shine hated me for it, but deal with it, Shine. How can you easily make 300% profit off the Green New Deal? I'm telling you, financial advice right now. At 29 years old, Alexandria Cortez is the youngest congressperson in history, also known as AOC. She's quite the sensation among young left-leaning folks. No surprise. She's often referred to as the Democrats' version of Trump, with 2.4 million fans following her on Twitter. Like any socialist, she's full of good ideas, most of them involving a lot of taking money from one group and giving it to another. She's calling for a 70% top tax rate, for example, free college, giving free money to those who are, quote, unwilling to work. But this individual wants to set aside politics and tell you one of her silliest ideas of all. She doesn't know it, but this idea will send one beaten down stock through the roof. One that soared 3,000% the last time that this was proposed in a bull market. Alexandria's big idea is called the Green New Deal. Now, what she doesn't realize is that this idea of the Green New Deal might be entirely contingent upon nuclear energy. The Green New Deal excludes the cleanest energy source of all. According to AOC, quote, there is no place for nuclear power in America's future. Many folks think that nuclear power is dirty and dangerous. They associate it with big smokestacks and nuclear bombs. These people could not be more wrong. Now, I will say, I have to admit, I have a little bit of bias right now on this because my father is a nuclear engineer, and I feel like I know a little bit more of what I'm talking about than your average citizen. However, nuclear is the best source of renewable clean energy that we currently have. It does not cause any pollution. The steam drifting out of those nuclear plants that look so terrible, look so chaotic, look like they're polluting us, is harmless steam. The exact same harmless steam from your shower. In fact, the International Panel on Climate Change found that nuclear power produces less air pollution than solar, wind, or hydro. It is also the safest energy source on the planet, according to the World Health Organization. The Green New Deal cannot succeed without nuclear. There are 99 nuclear reactors in the U.S. right now. They generate twice as much clean energy as every single solar panel, wind turbine, or other clean energy source combined. They generate twice as much clean energy as every solar panel, wind turbine, and other clean energy source combined. Excluding nuclear clean energy sources like solar and wind make up 17% of America's energy needs. Getting that to 100% by 2030 without nuclear is literally impossible. Not just theoretically impossible, literally impossible. For one, it would cost trillions of dollars. Also, we need energy sources that are dependable and always on. This is a major problem for solar and wind. Solar power is interrupted by darkness and clouds. Wind turbines only work when the wind blows. That's why solar generates only 25% of the time, while wind only generates 35% of the time. This is why I'm saying, real news audience, the uranium demand plunged and its price is cratered now at 86% below what it said before. This led to the vast majority of uranium companies shutting their doors. In 2011, there were 585 uranium companies, just 40 remain operational today. And most of the survivors have seen their stocks plunge 90% or worse. If Alexandria Cortez gets her Green New Deal pushed right now, invest in the plunged uranium market, you'll have a 300% return on your investment. Go nuclear, everybody. 8:58. Be right back.
Now payback is bad chicken, baby.
Let's leave Facebook. I'm not sorry, baby. I'm sorry that I'm not sorry. Yeah, I would bet that too, Clint. Let's Hey, call your dad back. I can't. I'm doing Mevo on my phone.
You're talking to the guy. Yeah, I don't even smoke. I got lighter. I got waterproof matches in there.
Nice.
Hello, I'm Simon Wesley. You're watching the Today I Found Out YouTube channel, and in the video today we're looking at how the rumour that Paul McCartney died in 1966 and was replaced got started. For a couple of months in the fall of 1969, a persistent rumour that Paul McCartney had been killed 2 years earlier and replaced with a lookalike captured the imaginations of Beatles fans and the general public. The rumour began in the winter of 1967 when, after a particularly icy night, reports were flying among Britain's national press that Paul had been killed in a car crash on January the 7th, 1967. The tale was reported in the February issue of the Beatles monthly book, number 43, under the heading of False Rumour, and was a denial from the Beatles press office. In fact, it claims that neither Paul nor his black Mini Cooper had even left the house that day. Fast forward to September 1969, about 1 week before the release of Abbey Road, when the student newspaper of Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa, ran the story, "Is Beatle Paul McCartney Dead?" In the article, which is written in the same style with which today's Ancient Aliens posits its wildest theories, Tim Harper opines that Paul may indeed be insane, freaked out, and even dead. Harper supported the statement by examining Beatles' album covers and lyrics and pointed to Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, where he found two mysterious symbols: a hand over Paul's head in what is conjectured to be an ancient death symbol, a left-handed guitar that lies on the grave at the group's feet. Paul was the only lefty. On the back cover, Paul is the only one not facing the camera, and in the centerfold, Paul is the only one wearing a black armband. Continuing with the examination, Harper looked at the walrus of the Magical Mystery Tour, revealed to be Paul's in 1968's Glass Onion, which, at least according to Harper, was a Viking symbol of death. And then, turning his attention to the Beatles, he reported that playing Revolution No. 9 backward produced phrases about death. It's not clear if Harper was kidding or not with his story, but it certainly captured the imagination of the country. By October 1969, the Beatles' press office was flooded with questions about Paul's health, and on October the 12th, 1969, DJ Russ Gibb of WKNR-FM in Detroit, Michigan, moderated a full hour of an impromptu discussion of the topic with listeners who were calling in. Inspired, Fred Labor, a University of Michigan natural resources student and reporter with its student newspaper, Michigan Today, who was assigned to review the recently released Abbey Road, penned a satirical piece titled "McCartney's Dead, New Evidence Brought to Light" on October the 14th, 1969. Unfortunately, many failed to realize he was kidding. In a 2009 article, Labor admitted that he had pulled all of his alleged clues out of his hat, but because so many didn't realize he was joking at the time, several of Labor's creations became part of the Paul is dead lore. These include that the lyric "the walrus was Paul" really means the corpse was Paul, with Labor claiming walrus is Greek for corpse, and that Paul was replaced with a Scottish orphan named William Campbell. Labor also claims that letters on Paul's black armband from Sgt. Pepper's, OPD, stood for the British equivalent of DOA and meant officially pronounced dead, and that Paul's bare feet on the Abbey Road cover signified that he was a corpse. Labor also noted that Paul was smoking right-handed, a sure sign that this was an imposter. Within a week, the rumour, which now contained several of Labor's fabrications, had reached the national media. On October the 21st, 1969, the story was examined on New York's WABC, which was picked up, at least at that time, in 38 states. By now, the alleged crash was claimed to have occurred on November the 9th, 1966, after Paul had angrily left a Beatles recording session. In addition, at some point, rather than William Campbell, some people were saying Billy Shears was Paul's replacement, due to the lyric in Sgt. Pepper's. Although the Beatles' press office continued to deny the rumour as a load of rubbish, for many the rumour lived on, even after Paul did an interview with Life on November the 7th, 1969. It all worked out for Paul and the Beatles, though, because as a result of the rumour, Beatles album sales increased significantly, and both Magical Mystery Tour and Sgt. Pepper's re-entered Billboard's top album charts. At the end of November 1969, Labor participated in a cross-examination televised on New York's WOR that was hosted by F. Lee Bailey and which analysed the rumour. When Labor admitted to Bailey before the show that he had made up his facts, Bailey reportedly said, "We have an hour of television to do. You're going to have to go along." So he did. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do give us a like below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Also, if you did enjoy it, over there on the right, a couple of other videos you'll probably enjoy. And thank you for watching.
Who is the richest musician in the world? Do a web search and you will find it as Paul McCartney, with a net worth of $1.24 billion. Whether you like the Beatles or not, you can't deny Paul McCartney's talent in music and business. So, how did the world's richest musician get his fortune? According to Heavy.com, Paul receives lots of royalties as the most successful songwriter of all time. He has been touring for over 40 years nonstop. He received plenty on his portion of the Beatles songs, and his third and current wife, Nancy, brings in several million a year from her family business. However, many people have a hard time connecting this ingenious businessman with the carefree, fun-seeking Paul McCartney we fell in love with 50-some years ago. Is Sir McCartney the same Paul we knew? Honestly.
Let's see what this says.
The theory, and this is the original insane rock and roll conspiracy theory. Paul McCartney became a household name when he rose to prominence as part of the Beatles. But in 1969, a rumor spread that Paul McCartney was not Paul McCartney because Paul McCartney had died and been replaced by an imposter. This was the infamous Paul is dead theory. According to this theory, Paul died in 1966 in a car crash. The crazed minds of obsessive Beatles fans came up with the rest of the story. According to the story, Paul McCartney died on November 9, 1966, after his car skidded off the Tennessee Road. According to the theory, the Beatles replaced him with an imposter, a look-alike named Billy Shears. Billy Shears looked the part, acted the part, and even sounded the part. The theory made absolutely no sense, since according to the theory, Billy Shears would have written the Beatles' biggest hit up to that point, Hey Jude. At the time, Paul McCartney thought this theory was amusing. His official statement was, "If I were dead, I'd be the last to know." However, crazed Beatles fans kept looking for clues. They found many of them on the cover of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Supposedly, the front cover depicted a funeral. Paul, on the cover, is wearing a patch that says OPD, which stood for officially pronounced dead. In fact, it was a patch from the Ontario Police Department saying Ontario Provincial Police.
Shut up!
Yeah, here's where they get into the palette being different, ears different. Apparently there was a witness to the car wreck as well. She was in the car with him.
Hey, it's 9:08 in the morning. Welcome back to Real News, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host of this program. My name is Mr. Henry. Caller Matt sitting to my right here. Gonna hold off on Conspiracy Theory Thursday for, that's right, yeah. Sorry, I just kind of rolled through that.
Good morning.
Yeah, what's up, buddy? Gonna hold off on Conspiracy Theory Thursday for at least one more segment here. I want to finish out this nuclear thing and get into some ocasio-cortez clips. Look, I've been preaching for a very, very long time. You want to talk about a Green New Deal? You want to talk about the most renewable source of energy we have? You want to talk about the cleanest source of energy we have? France has figured it out. What's it? 75, 80% of their energy production is nuclear? We could do that in America if we wanted to. I mean, look, technically speaking, we kind of perfected this technology, did we not? So, or at least started to perfect it. 99 nuclear reactors in the U.S. right now, generating twice as much clean energy as solar panels, wind turbines, and every other clean source of energy combined. Also, you don't have to wait for the sun to be shining. Also, you don't have to wait for the wind to be rolling. In fact, The International Panel on Climate Change found that nuclear power produces less air pollution than solar, wind, or hydro. Now, you might ask yourself how the uranium sector collapsed. As you likely know, nuclear power plants use uranium to produce electricity. But the uranium sector has collapsed since 2011. It began with the freak accident in Japan. First, the most powerful earthquake in Japanese history caused the reactor to shut down. Then a tsunami disabled the emergency generators. This caused a disastrous nuclear meltdown that contaminated a large area and killed and injured many people. Japan shut down all but 2 of its reactors after this disaster. Many other countries followed suit. Germany moved to phase out nuclear power completely, and plans to build 4 new reactors in America were shelved. Uranium demand plunged, its price cratered 86%. This led to the vast majority of uranium companies shutting their doors. In 2011, there was 585 uranium companies. Just 40 remain operational today. And most of the survivors have seen their stock plunge 90% or worse. Now, uranium has nowhere to go but up. And I will also say this, too, before I get to Alexander Cortez's clips. Name me one time in American history. Please, call in and let me know. 865-888-TALK, 865-888-8255. Name me one time in American history where a nuclear reactor has gone awry and actually caused harm to the population around it.
3 Mile Island.
But that didn't cause any harm, though.
What?
It didn't. 3 Mile Island is the one that people usually go to, but it didn't cause any harm to the wildlife, didn't cause any harm to any of the population around it, didn't cause any harm to the water sources, didn't cause any harm to anything out there.
All that, every other person in every other house had cancer. That's all, that was all made up?
From 3 Mile Island?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to have to look that up.
Oh, wow. Maybe I'm just old.
The nuclear community seems to be
they just got rid of all that, huh?
With that being said, let's go to Alexander Cortez here. She's talking to a Wells Fargo rep, trying to place blame for a lot of the disasters that have been going on at the Wells Fargo rep's feet. And this is just a bad look for Alexander Cortez. It really is, because this is her guest. This is her witness. Representative Alexander Cortez questions Wells Fargo CEO Timothy Sloan during a House Financial Services Committee meeting. Here we go.
Get that mean old banker.
Mr. Sloan, earlier today you said that Wells Fargo does not put profits over people, correct?
That's correct.
I'm interested in the human rights abuses and environmental disasters that some say are financed by your bank, Wells Fargo. In a recent Guardian article by Crystal Tubles and Matt Remley, they stated, Wells Fargo has pursued profits without principles by investing in private prisons, for-profit immigration detention centers, loan shark-like payday lending, and holding much of the bond debt, strangling Puerto Rico's efforts to lift itself out of its financial crisis. Is it true that Wells Fargo has invested or financed in some of these industries?
We made a decision 2 years ago to exit the 2 relationships that we had with 2 private prisons firms. One has been exited, and then when the credit agreement with the other one amortizes and matures, we will no longer have that relationship.
Are those 2 companies Geo Group and Core Civic?
Correct.
And which one has been exited, Geo Group or Core Civic?
I can't recall exactly which one. But,
okay. Madam Chair, I'd like to seek unanimous consent to submit 3 reports highlighting the bank's role in debt financing these groups.
By the way, her 3 reports are just like 3 articles she pulled off Fox or something. I don't know. It's 3 case studies. Anyways, go ahead.
For-profit prison companies running ICE detention facilities.
Without objection, such is the order.
Mr. Sloan, why was the bank involved in the caging of children? And
before he even answers this question, part of this is her problem and her people's problem by just giving her such. What are you doing? That's such a ridiculous question to ask. Why was Wells Fargo involved with the caging of children? Are you serious, lady? I mean, I know you're trying to get some gotcha journalism question or something here, but you're not a journalist. You don't know how to ask these questions properly. What do you think his response is going to be? It's absurd, man. Listen to his response.
Financing the caging of children to begin with.
I don't know how to answer that question because we weren't.
So in finance, you were involved in debt financing of Core Civic and Geo Group, correct?
And I believe in conspiracy theories.
Yeah, right. No, yeah, that's right. And this plays well into Conspiracy Theory Thursday because Alexander Cortez is now saying that a lending partner or a financing partner is now all of a sudden the one that has the nefarious scheme to cage children.
build all the cages?
Yeah, right.
I mean,
They built all the cages. Right. They're the ones that are really running the Ninth Circuit to make the decision that you can't separate children from their parents. That's what's really going on. Wells Fargo is actually the judges in the Ninth Circuit.
she's not going to get their money. I'm telling her right now. You're not getting Wells Fargo money.
That's what it is, though, right?
They will leave before you'll ever get their money.
Matt said that during break. He said, "Oh, so AOC's just trying to get to Wells Fargo's money." Okay.
That's all she's doing.
Right.
Period of time we were involved in financing one of the firms, we're not anymore, and the other. I'm not familiar with the specific assertion that you're making, but we weren't directly involved in that.
Okay, so these companies run private detention facilities run by ICE, which is involved in caging children. But I'll move on.
Yeah, see, I love, too, when a congressman or even a senator has to do that. This sly little jab at the end where...
We'll move on.
Yeah, I'll make the point for you of what you should have said. This is why I brought you in, okay? I brought you in as my witness so you could say these things that I gave you ahead of time. You're not saying them. I'll say them for you. Okay, yeah, so look, you funded ICE, and ICE is detaining children, ripping them away from their parents. That's what you meant to say, so everyone knows what's going on. That's the soundbite that people will play. Let's move on.
Mr. Sloan, Wells Fargo was also an investor, a major investor in the Dakota Access Pipeline and the Keystone XL pipelines. They were prime investors and lenders to companies building these pipelines in defiance of Standing Rock Sioux's treaty rights to protect its water and sacred lands. They warned early on, the Lakota Sioux warned early on that the pipeline was unstable and bound to leak. Despite that, it was built anyway, and it has leaked at least 5 times. And the Keystone XL in particular had one leak that leaked 210,000 gallons across South Dakota. Since Wells Fargo financed the building of this pipeline in an environmentally unstable way, why shouldn't the bank be held responsible for financing the cleanup of the disasters from these projects?
All right, now this is just a false equivalency if I've ever heard one. I mean, the conflation between that, it's not just a supreme lack of legal comprehension. You don't have to be a legal scholar, you don't have to have a law degree to understand, all right, dude, the liability for a financing corporation is not the same thing as the liability as the person that's under operational control of that pipeline. Wells Fargo is not running the pipeline. Wells Fargo provided some money for this other company to then get materials together to then have operational control of the building and maintaining.
And they
of that
had to
pipeline.
build it to code anyway. It hasn't leaked yet. She's already
Right.
This is future projections of leaks. This is all about seizing the energy. That's all this is about. Every single bit of it. I can tell by the way she's talking. It's about
seizing the energy,
power.
but it's a bad look for her, man. It's a really bad look. I mean, if you think it's bad so far, just wait and see how bad this ends up getting.
Which pipeline are you referring to?
Yeah, right.
Either,
So we were not involved in the financing of the XL pipeline. We were one of the 17 or 19 banks that was involved in the financing of the Dakota Access Pipeline.
Well,
okay, so
gotcha.
Right.
Oh, gotcha. We get your give me your stuff.
Yeah. There's 18 other people on hook for this too. So what are you?
Oh, so we can get all the 18. Give me the names. I want the names.
Yeah.
I want a list of all the banks
That's
that were
what
involved.
Cortez should have
That's
said.
where this is going.
Wait, there's 18 other people I can steal money from? Oh, all right.
Oh.
Yeah, provide me a list of that real quick. I didn't know I didn't start there.
Wells Fargo hasn't financed any company associated with the Keystone XL pipeline?
No, I didn't say
Okay.
that. I said we're not involved in financing that pipeline specifically.
Okay, so let's focus on the Dakota Access Pipeline. Should Wells Fargo be held responsible for the damages incurred by climate change due to the financing of fossil fuels and these projects?
I don't know how you'd calculate that, Congresswoman.
Say from spills, or when we have to reinvest in infrastructure, building seawalls from the erosion of infrastructure, or cleanups, wildfires, etc.
Did you hear that question? Did you hear how insanely overarching? I mean, like, what do you do with that question? Listen to this question.
I don't know how you'd calculate that, Congresswoman.
Say from spills, or when we have to reinvest in infrastructure, building seawalls from the erosion of infrastructure, or cleanups, wildfires, etc.
Related to that pipeline, I'm not aware that there's been any of what you described that's occurred related
How
to that.
about the cleanups from the leaks of the Dakota Access Pipeline?
I'm not aware of the leaks associated with the Dakota Access Pipeline that you're describing.
So hypothetically, if there was a leak from the Dakota Access Pipeline, why shouldn't Wells Fargo pay for the cleanup of it, since it paid for the construction of the pipeline itself?
Because we don't operate the pipeline. We provide financing to the company.
I mean, I don't know. Okay, I get a loan to run a laser tag facility. I go to the bank to get a loan. They give me $75,000 to buy the property, to buy all the equipment, and then some kid gets, socked in the face and loses a tooth at my laser tag facility. Why shouldn't that bank pay for this kid's dental surgery? I mean, because the bank wasn't running the laser tag facility, lady. What are you talking about? I don't know how much more I can break this down. Aside from all that either, listen to this. The IUB approved the pipeline on March 10, 2016 on a vote of 3-0. Being the last of 4 state utility regulators granting its approval under the conditions, which include liability insurance of at least $25 million. This guarantees that the parent company's Dakota Access will pay for damages created by the pipeline leak or a potential spill, a revised agriculture impact migration plan, a timeline for construction notices, modified condemnation, easement forms, a statement accepting the terms and conditions of the board approval, yada, yada, so on and so forth. There's already a plan in place.
In place. You can't move forward with the pipeline until all this is taken care of anyway.
Dude,
you can't break ground until all these permits are paid. Everything is dotted.
This pipeline is 1,172 miles long. You think you can move forward without having a contingency plan there of some type of liability insurance?
Tons.
What are you talking about?
Every few miles, you probably have to have more insurance.
It's a $3.78 billion project. It was announced on June 14th and just confirmed.
She just wants the banks.
She just wants the banks.
Guess what?
Man.
And nobody's going to care. All they want are the connections.
Yeah, it's true.
That's all she has to do is make the connections. They don't care about nuance. They aren't going to look into it. These people are going to listen to the high priestess Ocasio and just move on.
Listen to the last minute of this, too.
It's operating the pipeline. Our responsibility is to ensure that at the time that we make that loan, that customer, and we have a group of people in Wells Fargo, including an environmental oversight group headed by one of my colleagues who used to be at the EPA.
So one question, why did Wells Fargo finance this?
He was making too much sense.
Yes, exactly. I was just going to say, right?
Shut him down. Shut it down.
Right when he started, just as he's started to present something rational and okay, so you guys actually took your time and did
move on.
Okay, stop talking. Right?
You're making sense.
Why did Wells Fargo finance this pipeline when it was widely seen to be environmentally unstable?
Again, the reason that we were one of the 17 or 19 banks that financed that is because our team reviewed the environmental impact and we concluded that it was a risk that we were willing to take.
Your time expired. And he also, what he means is a risk that we were willing to take. He didn't mean an environmental risk. He didn't mean a risk that the EPA would shut us down. He didn't mean a risk that there were going to be protests. He meant a financial risk that we were willing to take.
How much did they pay to actually risk assessment? Right. They paid a guy to do risk assessment on this.
Yeah, I mean
they know there wasn't the risk was small, minute.
Yeah, banks they're in the business of speculation. They're in the business of if I give you money, am I going to get a return on my investment? That's what they meant the risk. They didn't mean the risk that you're talking about, Alexander Cortez. I have nothing to do with that risk. I just control money for investment. That's it. 9:22, hit this break. Be back with Conspiracy Theory Thursday.
Well, let me finish out. I gotta make sure there's no cussing in this video.
Oh. What did I say? Lord.
Billy Shears. Billy Shears looked the part, acted the part. However, crazed Beatles fans kept looking for clues. Announced dead. In fact, Wednesday morning at 5 o'clock, because that's when Paul was officially pronounced dead. Fans kept looking for clues on the whiteout.
Oh, yeah?
The track Revolution number 9 begins with a voice saying, number 9.
Late 1800s?
Yes, it was an artist colony created in the late 1800s. And guess who lived on the Hudson River? Literally 5 to 10 minutes down the Hudson. Aleister Crowley was living as a hermit out in the woods. And guess what Woodstock's sign is when you pull into the town of Woodstock? Do as thou wilt.
We're talking about the Paul McCartney thing first. Yeah.
I know more about the Grateful Dead, Woodstock. It was an experiment and a ritual out of Woodstock.
Well, see, the Paul McCartney can actually lead us into just the idea of conspiracy theories
in the
realm of music.
They're all OTO, and that was Aleister Crowley.
Explain this one to me, though. I don't know anything about that Aleister Crowley thing.
He's a mystic from the turn of the century. He's probably fathered more of the people you see on TV than you ever want to give him credit for.
Okay.
He looks identical to Barbara Bush. He's suspected of being Barbara Bush's father. Here's she partied with Aleister Crowley before she had Herbert.
Huh.
Pierce, the Bush mother, before the Bush's, it would have been his Barbara's mother.
All right.
Barbara's suspected to be an Alistair's kid. Alistair has kids everywhere. Bowie is suspected to be one of his children.
David Bowie?
All
Really?
dude, they're all in the OTO. They all look like Aleister Crowley. The OTO is blood sugar sex magic. It's a Babylonian. That gets into that's the Red Hot Chili Peppers. They call it blood sugar sex magic, but it's blood sex magic.
Okay, all right. So he's not. I thought he was like some modern artist. No, he was born in 1875.
Oh no. He is the original rock and roll. He brought rock and roll to America to the forefront.
Gotcha.
They didn't have rock and roll in his day. So to be a mystic, to be this on the edge, looking into edgy information, coming out of a Christian lifestyle, to look into this edgy occult theosophy, to get into black magic, dark magic, was edgy. That was as rock and roll as you're going to get in the late 1800s. He is the embodiment of rock and roll. He brought it to us.
He looks like that. You ever see the very first Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr.? Yep. Remember the evil character in that one? He looks like that guy. Bald head, into black magic and stuff.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's right.
All right, cool. Let's start with the Paul stuff. We'll have a little bit of fun messing around with that for a minute, and then I'll bring us to the Crowley stuff.
Oh, either one's good.
$9:26
in the morning. Welcome back to Real News, ladies and gentlemen. A couple quick Facebook comments based upon what we were just talking about. Clint said, Wells Fargo provides financing for cars. Think about all the car accidents they're now responsible for. Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yep.
How many home loans, Norm saying, how many home loans have been issued to serial killers, mass murderers, and social deviants? The banks are culpable. Chris says also, Norm goes on to say, you had me at... It's a bad look for AOC, that's right. Chris says, this is actually an interesting window into the tactics of the left. They try to create a causal chain of responsibility, which inevitably is rooted in capitalism, yet I would take that one step further, and they can never really prove that causal chain that it's somehow rooted in capitalism. With all that being said, we have about 3 or 4 minutes. Ross, can you give me 4 minutes, 11 seconds here? And also, I'm pretty sure this is good to go, Ross, because it's coming from Rolling Stone, but I have only listened to 2 minutes of this, so
be ready.
Keeping you on your toes. If something drops, you're going to have to hit that dump button. Here is what we're talking about to start with. We're going to start with Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney apparently died in 1966. Conspiracy Theory Thursday. Caller Mattson talking about this. That's going to lead us into Aleister Crowley. Is that, am I saying that right?
Aleister Crowley, correct.
Aleister Crowley.
OTO.
Honestly, I just now been turning on this Aleister Crowley character, and I know the Facebook audience can say, for real, Mr. Henry? For real?
OTO, baby.
Yeah. Let's go to, we got this computer going right now. Rolling Stone describing one of the more controversial conspiracy theories in all of rock history. Here we go.
Bigger the name, the weirder the theory. And this is the original insane rock and roll conspiracy theory. Paul McCartney became a household name when he rose to prominence as part of the Beatles. But in 1969, a rumor spread that Paul McCartney was not Paul McCartney because Paul McCartney had died and been replaced by an imposter. This was the infamous Paul is dead theory. According to this theory, Paul died in 1966 in a car crash. The crazed minds of obsessive Beatles fans came up with the rest of the story. According to the story, Paul McCartney died on November 9th, 1966, after his car skidded off an icy road. According to the theory, the Beatles replaced him with an imposter, a look-alike named Billy Shears.
Billy Shears!
Billy Shears looked the part, acted the part, and even sounded the part. The theory made absolutely no sense, since according to the theory, Billy Shears would have written the Beatles' biggest hit up to that point, Hey Jude. At the time, Paul McCartney thought this theory was amusing. His official statement was, if I were dead, I'd be the last to know. However, crazed Beatles fans kept looking for clues. they found many of them on the cover of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Supposedly, the front cover depicted a funeral. Paul, on the cover, is wearing a patch that says OPD, which stood for Officially Pronounced Dead. In fact, it was a patch from the Ontario Police Department saying Ontario Provincial Police. On the back cover, George's finger points to the words Wednesday morning at 5 o'clock because that's when Paul was officially pronounced dead. Fans kept looking for clues on the White Album. On the track Revolution Number 9, it begins with a voice saying, Number 9, Number 9. If you play it backwards, you can hear the words saying, Turn me on, dead man. And if you listen to the spot in between I'm So Tired and Blackbird, and you play that backwards, you can supposedly hear John Lennon say, Paul is dead, man, miss him, miss him. And famously, at the end of Strawberry Fields Forever, you hear John saying what seems to be, I buried Paul. However, he was actually saying cranberry sauce. Because it was October 1969 and the Beatles' new record was Abbey Road, that's where people looked most closely for clues. On the cover of Abbey Road, the four Beatles are crossing the street toward their studio. However, people came up with a theory that it's a funeral procession. John is wearing white because he's the preacher. Ringo's dressed in black because he's the undertaker. And George is bringing up the rear, wearing blue jeans because he's the gravedigger. And Paul is wearing black, like the corpse. He's out of step with the others. He's smoking and pointing a cigarette down, and he's barefoot. Which was supposedly a sign of mourning in Sicily. Tellingly, a Volkswagen in the background of the photo has the license plate 28 if, because Paul McCartney would be 28 if he were still alive. In fact, Paul McCartney was 27. John Lennon called this theory the stupidest rumor I've ever heard, and it died down pretty quickly. Paul is Dead went down in Beatle mythology as a popular, delusional, word-of-mouth phenomenon. As for Paul McCartney, he remains very much alive, working hard, touring hard, writing new songs, and still admirably amused by the whole thing. My name is Rob Sheffield, and I officially do not believe any of these WTF music conspiracies.
Hey, you're wrong, Rob. This Conspiracy Theory Thursday. You don't know what you're talking about just because you work for Rolling Stone.
See, a lot of that I'd never heard.
Oh, really?
About Paul. No.
Yeah?
No, I don't go to Rolling Stone for any information that's owned by the people I don't believe.
I have a lot of follow-up questions about that whole thing, too, first of all, what would be the motivation behind starting this conspiracy theory? People like to have fun with conspiracy theories, but let's say that he actually did die. What would be the motivation behind...
Do you know the money?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
the influence they're about to launch into America.
Yeah.
And they needed the Beatles invasion. Because they needed that coming to America.
If someone knows the Beatles better than I do, it's in Facebook, or maybe you even met as well. I don't know when that whole Beatles fever took over, but if Paul died in 1966, when did that really come to a fever pitch, the whole Beatles thing?
A couple of years before, I guess, they did the invasion. But thing that gets me is you can actually do photographs of the old Paul, new Paul, and the mouths are even actual scientists have overlaid the photographs. You can look at the mouth. It's a different palate. It's a different shape. He has different ears, different earlobes. And funny enough, the Paul we have now was under a different name, playing in a different band at the exact same time in London. And just had a mustache. Shave him down. Here we go. There was a year and a half where the Beatles did not play any live music, where they were seen on stage or anywhere.
Really?
Yes, that was right after this car wreck. There is a witness to the car wreck. She was in the Volkswagen with Paul when this happened. So they don't really want to talk about her being in the car with him, and they don't want to release her testimony too much. But, lots of speculation, lots of fun stuff to think about.
Eric's saying on Facebook, didn't Ringo later admit that the rumor was true? I don't know, Eric. I'm going to look that up there on Facebook.
They call him Fall more than a few times on camera. They call him Fall, fake Paul.
Yeah.
They called him fake Paul.
Yeah.
And you can hear Ringo, John Lennon, all of them calling him Fall right after this happened.
Well, a lot of this circulates around what we're going to talk about today, too, of the necessity to maintain sort of... Because, look, I don't think this part, what I'm about to say, is not necessarily conspiracy theory. It is not a conspiracy theory to either believe in or to say the influence that people have in Hollywood, and it didn't always used to be this way. I don't know if it started with Elvis or the mid-50s or late 40s. I don't know when it started. But at some point, people in Hollywood, either actors actors or writers or directors or artists in general started to develop this sense of power that I don't know if they necessarily developed organically. You know what
Star
I'm saying?
power. It was
Star power.
pushed on us.
Yes, exactly.
None of this is organic, by the way. This is all fully funded and rolled out to the American people and always has been. There's no musician hits the big time. None of them without going through these people.
I think that Dave Chappelle stand-up, though, really encapsulates this entire thing, encompasses it for me, where he's talking about Ja Rule went on some CNN interview right after Katrina was going down and was talking about it, and it was the same vein of Kanye West saying that Bush hates black people or something, and Ja Rule was trying to give some political commentary on the landscape right now, and Dave Chappelle was saying, like, oh, man, where's Ja Rule at a time like this? I need to make sense of what's going on in the world politically. Where's Ja Rule? And it kind of makes the point of, bro, when did we get to the point of, and it's not an organic thing. I don't think Elvis was out there actively pushing for, please listen to my political opinion.
No, they put Elvis, everybody was put on a pedestal for a reason and pushed on you.
Yeah.
None of this is natural. Yeah.
Norm saying in Facebook, Beatles are connected to the Masons, just saying.
Oh, yeah, they're OTO. That's Order Temple Orientis, Temple of the East. That is, sure. I'll just leave it there.
Somebody in politics or somebody that has influential power somewhere, the first time they saw one of these girls swoon so much over the Beatles that they literally passed out in the front aisle, they thought,
star power.
Oh, I can use that.
Oh, it's political power.
I can use that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to change your lyrics or whatever, but I may get you to say some things here or there, and now all of a sudden people go to Matt Damon to get their most controversial political opinion, or Ben Affleck is the person that I want to go to figure out what the proper stance on Islamophobia is.
As long as you turn to one of their stars that they've propped up, they're happy. As long as you turn to one of these, got the stars in your eyes.
Yeah, but it's just, it doesn't make sense on any level. At a fundamental level, it doesn't make sense. What do the Beatles know?
Culture control.
I know. And I don't know, Matt, maybe it does make sense, okay? The Beatles are out there hobnobbing around with some of the most elite in all of society. They're tripping acid with Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin on a train tour.
And Charles Manson.
And Charles Manson, dude.
Hanging out, partying with the Beach Boys.
They're in the know, all right?
Oh, yeah.
They know what's going on. So maybe it does make sense if I should go to anybody as to what's actually happening in the world. It's those people that are tripping acid with the real movers and shakers. I don't know.
And that was all funded by the CIA dark money.
Yeah.
All of it. Yep.
That's another thing we might need to touch on today, too, is the CIA
the Grateful Dead is a CIA band.
All right, we're going to get else. Katie has an opinion about it.
Sorry, get your skull cracked open here.
We have 9:37. Hit this break. Be right back.
He's wicked smart.
Wicked smart.
They're talking about you.
My favorite line from that movie.
Yeah, mine too.
I paid $1.50. I'm like, you know what my grandfather said? He had degrees coming out the yin yang, masters, this and that. All of his children, my aunts and uncles. Oh, I'm getting this. I'm doing PhD. Oh, I'm doing this. He looked at me one day where they're all talking garbage coming out of the higher education. He just looked at me and he goes, "You can read, right? You don't need to go to college."
Right? I know, dude.
He goes, "You know how to read?" And I went, "Yes, but I don't want to be that smart." He goes, "You can read. You're fine." This is from a guy with many degrees.
Hang on.
Wicked piss. Sorry.
I like this scene here too, man. Where it's just like at some point too, you just, I don't know, man. This is a very sobering reality for me. At some point, you just need to recognize. Maybe it's here. Just where he lights the thing on fire. Yeah. At some point, you just need to recognize like your role in life. Like sometimes you're just not good at something.
Maybe you don't go to Harvard.
Right?
Tom, can you get us some coffee? Sure. Let's see. This is correct.
This is when he realized how smart Damon really is.
You see, you used McLaurin.
He's just like, oh, this kid's smarter than
What's it called?
See there?
Yeah, I don't know what to call it.
He said, "I see you use McLaurin." I don't know what you call the theory. I just know I'm better than you are. You know?
Yeah.
Huh? Who? Katie? Yeah, sure. Yeah. It all plays together. The whole thing of Paul being dead to CIA taking over to, I do.
Oh, okay. All right, that makes sense. All right, yeah, okay. Well, yeah, she was a huge fan growing up, so I'm sure she heard all about this. Okay. Okay, cool.
This can't be right. It would be very embarrassing. Do you ever consider? Pretty sure it's right. Hey, look, can we do this at Sean's office from now on? Because I gotta knock off work to come here, and the commute is killing me. Yeah, sure. But did you think of the possibility? That's right. Just take it home with you. What happened at the McNeil meeting? Well, when I set up a meeting with more meetings, well, I won't. I'll cancel them. I'll give you a job myself. I just wanted you to see what was out there. Look, maybe I don't want to spend the rest of my fucking life sitting around explaining shit to people. I think you could show me some appreciation. A little appreciation? Do you know how easy this is for me? Do you have any fucking idea how easy this is? This is a fucking joke. And I'm sorry you can't do this. I really am, because I wouldn't have to fucking sit here and watch you fumble around and fuck it up. Then you'd have more time to sit around and get drunk instead, wouldn't you? You're right. This is probably a total waste of my time.
This is stuff I've never even seen. That's a rich guy that was going to inherit the Guinness legacy. Looks just like Paul, but not blonde. Huh. Weird.
What is this book?
And so I suppose when you go to the moon, Jim Fetzer, Professor Fetzer, he does okay work.
It's just like
years ago.
A compilation of conspiracy theories or something?
His that he's worked on, yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
cool.
he has sources, references. He really does it. I mean, he's got a PhD, so he does the research. He's
He
okay.
covers everything, huh?
He's okay. Yeah. Fetzer gets it right on some stuff.
That's cool. It makes you think. I've always wanted someone to. Maybe we'll cover this one day. I just don't know who in the world I'd call as an expert for this. The Princess Di? Death?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Oh, there's more to that.
I'm sure there is, man. I just don't know who I'd get for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right, Bill. I can't do this. But you can, and when it comes to that, it's only about it's just a handful of people in the world who can tell the difference between you and me. But I'm one of them. Sorry. Yeah, so am I. Most days I wish I never met you.
That's right. Because then your life would have meaning, wouldn't it? Boy, ye. That's what happens when you put meaning in life in something fleeting. You know what I mean? Nine 9:43 in the morning. You think anyone ever did the robot to the Beatles?
I just saw it. I literally just watched it.
Just say I just saw in the studios, right?
So sorry for you, Matt.
No, it was
So
good.
Sorry. Okay.
You know,
I
they
could
were-
move you. I would.
They were
you
all
know.
they were all robots anyways in that band. You know. Hey, if you
Well,
just,
I was getting to that. But
if you just joined us, we're talking about Paul McCartney apparently died in 1966, and I was asking Matt off air, and I knew this was going to be the answer. All right, fine, let's say he did die in 1966. What in the world would be the purpose of continuing this weird? Because there's been bands before. The bass player for Metallica, he died in a bus accident.
not as big as the Beatles.
That's what I'm saying, right? Yeah. So I mean, there's been bands before where major figures have passed away before, and they just continued on by replacing the guy. They're very open about replacing the guy. One of my favorite drummers of all time, Mike Portnoy, he just couldn't cut it anymore in Dream Theater. They replaced him with Mike Mangini. Good move, but it's not the Beatles, man. It wasn't the Beatles. There wasn't a purpose behind.
The timing was horrible for this guy to be in a car wreck, apparently.
That's
and
right.
this Like I said, for a year and a half after their car wreck, they did not play one live show anywhere.
Well,
so they were trying to hide for a reason.
There was a purpose behind the Beatles doing what the Beatles were doing.
They
you know what I mean?
they were so influential in music and tied to everyone in the music industry. They couldn't go anywhere.
And that was just around the same time, too, that they were really solidifying the music industry also being sort of a propaganda tool of whatever the Beatles say, so goes the United States type
Yes,
thing.
sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Hey, let's go to Katie on the line talking about the apparently Paul McCartney actually being dead. Something to add to it. Katie, what's on your mind?
Hi, I can barely hear you, Mr. Henry.
Oh. What about now? Is that a little bit better?
But that's okay. No, still can't. I can hear you like you're across the room, but I'll still tell you why I was calling. This is my childhood. You guys are talking. Oh, now I can hear you. You guys are talking about my childhood. So I just
I know.
say,
I'm hated for
it. My gosh. There are people out there. I studied this for months and months and months and months. And what you guys may not be remembering is we had record players back then, right? And so all of us took our Beatles albums and played them backwards.
Oh, yeah. I'm a little older than you think.
Yeah, you would turn it on and you would spin it backwards, right?
Mhm.
And let's see, one of the album covers, they said the original albums had a different album cover, and if you steamed it off, there was a completely different picture under there, and they were all holding slabs of meat. So, yeah, we steamed our album cover.
Awesome.
And when he was walking across Abbey Road, one of the things is they said he was barefoot. Paul was the only one barefoot, so he must have been a corpse. So, I mean, we were so into this for, I would say, half a year.
Now, was the motivation behind being into this to try and prove it or disprove it? Was it just a fascinating thing in its principle because the Beatles were, they were the Beatles?
It's a glitch in the matrix. It messes with you. You have to run these things down when you see them, and they know that. They know we're looking into.
You must run them down.
Yes.
Yeah.
You
must run them down. But honestly, Matt, I don't know how old you were, but honestly, I don't think as fans, we thought they were broken-hearted and just trying to honor Paul, right? And so we were trying to track down the clue. But even if you could convince yourself that if you listen to the early, and they were albums, if you listen to the early albums and then the later albums, like...
He sounds different.
Yes!
Yeah, he does.
Matt!
I know. I don't want to. My mom hates me for looking into this. My mother absolutely hates me. I don't know if she'll ever talk to me about this again, but yeah, she is. Yeah, I was like, Mom, I thought it would help open her. She's like, nope, don't want to look at it anymore.
Hey, Kate, let me ask you too. A lot of people that are you have your Elvis fans, you have your Beatles fans. Some go across the board, but I will say those diehard fans cherish them almost to the extent of it's a cult-like following, if not a cult-like following. It's almost like an idolization of a god, almost, right?
That's what that's what this is all about.
It was people
they're
that go
cultists.
to where Elvis is his what's that place called? His
Graceland.
Home? Yeah, people that go to Graceland or whatever and just literally lay prostrate in front of some of these things. Katie, if it was...
It's a religious experience.
Right? If it was at some point proven true that Paul did actually die in 1966, what would that have done for you either when you were growing up following the Beatles or even now?
You know, it would have, I think, because you guys have to go back. He was the cute one, right? They all had titles. He was the cute one. And so I think it would have broken your heart, but I think it would have been fine. What happened to me personally was the boys in school just became cuter to me than Paul McCartney. So, you know.
Timing
It was
well.
over, man.
This is right after JFK was shot. They couldn't have the Beatles going anywhere. They needed our attention on rock and roll. I mean, it was a distraction from JFK, and they needed it bad.
Katie, we got to hit this break. I appreciate your input, though. We'll talk to you soon.
Hey,
thanks you, Katie.
for the walk through the past, guys.
All righty. Hey, there goes Katie. Hey, I don't know where you want to go next. We only have one segment left. We might have to pick this up some tomorrow or some next week as well. Let's see. Eric was saying on Facebook that Jerry Garcia was military. Bob Weir played guitar for...
Children of high-level military intelligence officers, all of them.
We could also go into Aleister Crowley. I think I might want to start with what you said.
The Beatles are big. Crowley's on a couple of their album covers. He puts Aleister Crowley. Yeah, he's everywhere.
Well, I explain for the audience real quick who they don't know who Aleister Crowley is. You said before off break, a lot of this idea of rock mentality came from him.
Rock and roll is a cult. The term rock and roll, to be a rock and to roll, is an occult term. to get into that, Aleister Crowley was a mystic in the late 1800s. There was no rock and roll. There was no edgy, who can be the edgiest, who can be the coolest. So you had to get into mysticism, occultism, black magic, white magic. You had to be the different guy. That was rock and roll back then. So he was the forefather. He literally brought rock and roll to America. And it's rock and roll, as far as I can tell, it's a Babylonian construct. For real. He was pretending to bring you this edgy mysticism when all he was doing was bringing back Sumerian and Babylonian ideals and the religion.
Which plays in a little bit. Maybe we'll touch this after the break here too. Of caller Matt saying that all I know is Jerry Garcia. Why do I keep forgetting the name of this
Grateful
band?
Dead?
Grateful Dead. Yeah, thank you. Being a CIA band.
Yeah, we absolutely.
Yeah.
Ken Kesey. We have Katy Perry's father. They were all with the man that pushed LSD on everyone, Timothy Leary.
And even
these were all people around Timothy Leary. He was propped up by Kesey through dark money in the CIA. It's. I could get you references, but I literally had about 10 minutes to research.
Timothy Leary is the college professor too that would push acid on.
He was trying to make LSD
right?
cool,
and
everybody thinks they're going into an enlightenment. We're going to this enlightenment learning, stepping outside into psychedelic. No, you're just being mind controlled.
Yeah,
they were seriously implanting things into your mind while listening to these concepts.
And I will tell you too, there is such a thing as a bad trip. Eric says in Facebook too, Google Augustus Stanley. He's the guy that supplied the LSD to Grateful Dead, Beatles, Hendrix, all the rest.
Oh yeah. These are people all connected to the CIA, all connected to the music industry.
He's also this guy, Augustus Stanley III, an American audio engineer and what they call a clandestine chemist. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I guess that's what you could call him. Clandestine chemist. Yeah, and Norm saying check out the 27 clubs. Hendrix on that list. Raj, do you want to hit a break or just continue this out and go to...
Yeah, I do because I just want to place it. This Hey Jude, I went to the original because they want you to go to the remastered. They keep pushing the remastered when you go on here.
Oh, interesting.
So I went to the original one, and they go on. I don't know who this guy is, but they go on after from being gone for so long. They said, from after being gone so long, here they are again, the Beatles, and they're horrible when they started.
Oh, really?
It's so bad. And then the guy comes on who's supposed to be Paul McCartney.
They didn't like the new Paul.
And he's like mouthing how he's about to start. Like, hey, Jude. Okay.
Like singing it to himself?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
You can hear it in the song.
They're connected to Tavistock Institute, which is a mind
crazy.
controlled in British. And
Yeah,
Britain.
like he was trying to get the voice
Yeah.
before he actually started singing.
Yeah. All right, well,
like if it's your voice, why would you have to do that?
If you wrote that song,
Right.
you sung it to
Come
yourself
on.
2,000
He's like,
times.
Hey,
Yeah.
Jude.
Yeah.
What's the first lyric? Hey, Jude?
Yeah,
Is it,
exactly. I hope it's Hey Jude.
All right, let's hit this break then as Rock sets this up. We'll hit this break, come back with JB's call, finish that a little bit. Eric wants to know, too, if Matt's familiar with Crowley being a medium or contacting these entities.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about all this.
In the Great Pyramids? Oh, absolutely.
Be right back.
Magnificent. A perfect rendition. Ladies and gentlemen, there you see the greatest tea room orchestra in the world. It's my pleasure to introduce now in their first live appearance for goodness knows how long in front of an audience, the Beatles.
It's now on.
Hey Jude, don't make it bad.
And the sad part is, I like the new Paul better.
Yeah?
Wings. I like Wings better than the Beatles. I think he did a better job. He's a better singer, but it's not him. Oh, why didn't we bring up his wife being paid off $40 million to keep her hole shut over this?
Really? So then we get back to
I totally forgot about it. She was getting ready to come out with something. Came out in the news. She was getting ready to drop the bomb of all bombs on the people, and then all of a sudden 40 million showed up, and she shut up.
Yeah, I know. This whole topic
Needs to come back because Shine just texted me and said the author of The Walrus Was Paul. Apparently, this guy lives in Knoxville.
What?
Yeah, we should have. I don't know what that book's about. I suppose it's about all this stuff we're talking about. But Shine said the author of The Walrus Was Paul lives in Knoxville. You should have him on. Which, if that's what that book's about, I'm sure he'd love to come on and talk about it. Nobody else is talking about it, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I wanted him to come back with his son next week.
Oh, yeah. No, that'd be great.
Your son knows all about this, right?
What?
Your son knows all about this?
My son is into history revisionism. When I say he's smarter than me, he's smarter than me in history. He looks at me funny when I talk conspiracies. But I'm like, dude, you already know them all, too.
Yeah.
He won't admit it, though.
And to leave more. If becoming a better steward.
Conspiracies to him. Hey, Jude. But when I talk about celebrities wearing masks and playing different roles, he just looks at me and shakes his head.
Really?
Yeah, I'm like, dude, you know you see it.
Why?
I
Because
could
you
show
didn't
you
believe
some-
it yet?
Yeah, I could show you stuff. Look up the chick that started the Me Too movement. Tell me who that is.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me who it is. The black lady? Go look up her picture. It's not you'll look at it and be like, looks like KRS-One. It is KRS-One. It'll freak you out.
$9:55 in the morning. Two quick
Things, and then I want to go to JB's call. Hopefully talking about this topic. We'll see here in just a second to finish out the show. Shine just messaged me, said the author of The Walrus Was Paul lives in Knoxville. We may have to continue this topic at another Conspiracy Theory Thursday, get that author on here.
I did not know Paul was going to be this,
I know.
I didn't know it was going to be this popular. I really did.
Some of our listening audience, man, falls in that demographic of that was their bread and butter. That was their stick, man. I don't know who we would say the same thing about in our generation, my generation. Obviously not a Kurt Cobain. There was nothing as big as the Beatles ever in our. I don't know if there ever will be again.
He was the closest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, and say what you said off air too about Paul's wife.
Oh, yeah. Paul's wife was getting ready to, this was just 10, 12 years ago, I believe, getting ready to drop the biggest bombshell about the Beatles and Paul on the world. Was handed $40 million by Paul, and it went away immediately. She was getting ready to tell everybody, hey, this ain't who you think it is.
Hey, with that being said, 2 minutes left. JB, sorry about only giving you 2 minutes here, man. We just had too much rant on. I'll give you those last 2 minutes of the show, though. What's on your mind?
This is Billy Shields from Tavistock.
Yeah, there you go.
First of all, Matt, thank you for the work.
Oh, you're, hey.
Remember, OTO. Crowley said right backward, we'll do everything backward. He said, I'll even
Inversion.
everything records backward.
Everything backwards from God, natural law.
And also, we didn't even get to this, but here's another fascinating what Dave McGowan's book about wild scenes in Laurel Canyon.
Oh, yeah.
Huge numbers of fabulous groups all go there. They can't play, they can't sing, they can't play their instruments. You get the wrecking crew to play on all their records. They all get contracts. They all become popular stars, all pushed out by like the Byrds and Buffalo Springfield.
Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
The whole range of them.
Yeah.
And they were sponsored and given contracts to turn so that hippies wouldn't stop the war in Vietnam. They wanted to turn this back to this archaic revival, turn it back, something else, looking back for some golden age, some Edenic system. And Laurel Canyon, this place where all these people live, the top of it, oddly enough, a fully operational, fully functioning, operational CIA film studio at the top of Laurel Canyon.
That's right.
Dave McGowan's book, and Dave McGowan suddenly died when McGowan talked about not just Laurel Canyon and all this stuff. He talked about programmed to kill, about the emergence of serial killers after World War II, and about the Nazis. Tremendous thing. Dave McGowan, Weird Scenes from a Canyon. Dave McGowan, look it up. Great. Good work, Matt.
Good stuff. Thanks, JB.
Thanks for the call, buddy. We'll talk to JB soon. 9:58 in the morning. Got to end it, unfortunately. We probably should have done 2 solid hours. I had no idea either. Maybe we'll see if Matt can come back in tomorrow and pick up some of this for tomorrow. We'll just bleed over into Conspiracy Theory Friday as well. We'll see what is.
I got to work all day tomorrow.
Oh, dang it, man. Come on,
I'm
man.
out of money.
Yeah,
I know.
Money. Hey, 9:58. Stick around for news, traffic, weather, all that. Glenn Beck coming up next. We'll be back tomorrow doing it big.
Bye, Knoxville.
I'm Ginny Cosolo with your Fox Business Network tax tip. Avoiding an IRS audit after this.
Download and make it Hammer Time with Bill Hammer.
I said, what you give up for Lent? Then I said, booze. You said, no wonder you look so miserable.
Subscribe and listen now by going to Fox News Podcast.
Marxism and everything. It started with the Grateful Dead and the hippies and LSD.
No, I can definitely see that, man. When you started talking about sort of, these socialist utopias that were set up during Woodstock. Man, can't you just see, bro? If we had
this is where
10 people living together, we had a banker that traded his services for your services. Yeah, I mean,
they got them really high so they could subvert them.
Right.
That's really all it was. Oh, we're learning, we're stepping out. So no,
everything's perfect while you're high, man.
Somebody's giving you drugs and they're giving you information. That's
right.
all they're doing.
Yeah, you're tripping on acid. You solve the world's problems in an instant. Yeah.
And they want you to go out and then tell the world about these new problems you found.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Marxism.
Until everyone grows up and realizes you got to pay taxes. Hey, Facebook, I'm going to end it there. Love y'all. We'll probably have Matt back on next Thursday. I'm just saying this for him now.
I found new stuff. It's cool. You'll love it.
We'll have Mark on next Thursday, do the whole hour Conspiracy Theory Thursday. Maybe back on just...
I got all of next Thursday cleared.
Oh, yeah?
All of it.
All right.
I took off work.
We're going to have Matt's son on at some point, too, man. He's got some good stuff to talk about, revisionist history and whatnot.
World War One.
Yeah?
Civil War and World War One.
All right.
Yeah, good stuff.
Oh, all right. Y'all are the best, as always. Love the likes, shares, and all that stuff. Talk to you soon. Peace.